The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of Xirtus or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dang, that was too bad. Well, it's been 7 hours and 16 days since we lost Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. But now nothing compares to the loss of Sinead O'Connor, right? Like, that's pretty bad, right? Sinead O'Connor is dead. Oh,
fight the real enemy.
I mean, right? So that was the first thing I thought of, Andy, was fight the real enemy. Do you guys remember that?
Is that what she said on Saturday Night Live?
SNL. She goes out there and she rips up a picture of the Pope. Which Pope was it? Was that John Paul II?
John Paul II.
Right.
Not for the reasons people probably think, though.
What is the reason that she did it for? Is it because she's Irish?
Pro-abortion. She wanted,
that
she
was
wanted
all?
abortion. That was it. It was just
That was the
abortions. John Paul
only
II
reason.
came out against abortion, so she came out against him. People
Man,
probably thought it had something to do with like child trafficking, but no.
Or
I
the
thought it had to do with
evil or
Ireland or something. But then I remember, what didn't Madonna do that also on Saturday Night Live? And she ripped up a picture of who's that again?
Who is
Forget.
that?
Who was
Joe
that, Ben
Piscopo?
Savage?
Tears up a picture of.
No one even knows who it is. Her ex-boyfriend.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, somebody else. I totally forget.
Sean Penn.
Somebody call it
Vanilla
out in the
Ice.
audience if you guys remember who Madonna ripped up. Then you're cool because it's this guy. I just don't remember. Someone's like, I know that man. Is that Ben
I don't
Affleck?
recognize him.
Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah, Ben
Look
Affleck
like Joey
from VH1.
Buttafuoco. That's Joey Buttafuoco. Good call.
Joey Buttafuoco. Oh
Yeah.
man.
That's who it is.
Yeah, the real enemy. Okay.
Yeah,
that
the real
makes sense.
enemy. He's right up there with John Paul II in terms of power and influence.
How have you all been? How's your world? What's going on? What's up, Seth?
It's beautiful and summery here, man. I just haven't been feeling great. I've been depressed, but whatever.
Man.
I'm happy you guys are back. I stopped doing talkie time the same time you went away for a month. I didn't know you were going away for a month, so I pretty much haven't talked in a month.
We took a vow of silence.
Yeah.
There's something to that. You can
Yeah.
always learn from that. But I mean, yeah, you're making music, right? You've got like a
Yes.
new debut coming out, so
I've only got one thing left to quit, and that's making music, so I don't plan on quitting that anytime soon.
yeah, exactly. That's pretty good.
And I started smoking weed all day, every day again.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that's
I'm not
exciting.
sure I'm against it. What about Andy? What are you up to? Deep Share. I saw
Oh,
you had
man,
new shows recorded.
Yeah, just pumping out the episodes, man. Just
Didn't you
doing my
do
thing.
a new thing with David? Isn't there like a David thing coming out?
Oh yeah, I got an episode with David Charles Blake coming out Friday.
Oh man, tell Sinead O'Connor videos to be quiet. There you go.
yeah,
Shut up,
we
Sinead.
got into some cool stuff. You know, that was his second appearance on the Deep Share,
Yeah.
and yeah, we went for a while too. That's a long one, so that'll be.
Yeah, you've
that'll
been
be
doing
out
a
on
lot of stuff. There's some stuff we're gonna have to talk about because we were both finding some interesting information about some documentaries that everyone's kind of just jumped on the bandwagon of. Well, in principle, you should be for something like this documentary, but not
Yeah.
looking into all like the intricacies of who's making it. And I think we should probably bring that up at some point. But
Sure, yeah.
But also Andrew Vega, what have you been up to, man? I know you're doing a lot.
Oh, I started working on the state capitol building again.
Wow.
And it's just a lot of manual labor in the hot sun. And the next 2 days are going to be over 90 degrees, humidity. And I'm just like, what is this all for?
Right. Yeah.
It's not Tartarian.
That's what you want to believe. Yeah. But there's probably basements, and yeah, you never know. They probably deleted a lot of the deleted by meaning, destroyed any of the remnants of what was old, in most of LA. A lot of that stuff was destroyed. It's sad to say. But wait, you're not in LA, right? You're in Kentucky?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, okay. I want to see that then. I'm still kind of curious. But Raphael, how have you been, man?
Thanks. Doing good. Just did yet another interview with David Ewing Jr. So we just continue blasting through the history, and also did a great conversation with Endgame Islam, which I'm going to bring up on one of the New Europa shows as well. And we can go deeper into, whatever you want to call it, the history of Europe, let's just say, or the history of the world, and, how it may potentially relate to the Quran and different things.
Very exciting stuff. Travis sends a super chat. The stash is here, and thank you very much. Also, Holly 20. Wow, thank you. We like to see this. This is very nice. And there's also so the Sinead O'Connor death. Any thoughts on Sinead O'Connor? Like all of a sudden, 56, not very old.
What did she die from?
Yeah, what did she die of?
It's sad as we announce the passing of Sinead. Garner controversy, continued release. I don't know. Doesn't say here.
I guess everyone would want to know if it's heart related, right?
Yeah, suicide, drug overdose.
Aliens.
Yeah, right. Probably.
She was famous for being bald, man. She was a one-hit wonder, but she was bald. That's the move. Maybe I should shave my head right now.
Don't give up your power.
Sinead O'Connor hospitalized days after teenage son's death. So
All I needed to do is find some way to visually distinguish myself from other musicians. So what I'm thinking is rainbow dreadlocks and cover my face in tattoos. Oh, it's taken. There's like 6 guys who fit that description. Good luck.
Yeah, I guess this is pretty brutal. I've decided
I'm gonna
to
get both
follow-
my eyes removed and then just one put right in the middle and be a Cyclops. See if they can ignore me then.
There's already a Cyclops rapper, isn't there? Fetty Wap.
No, are you serious?
Yeah, he's got one eye.
In the middle?
Oh no, not in the middle.
Not in the
Well, I've
That'd
got
be-
one working.
Not yet.
And what does he have? An eye patch or just an empty socket? Like
He just
Happy
rocks the flap. Yeah.
Just
It's
a-
gonna be cool when you get implants like in Star Trek.
Oh my
But
God,
no,
I'll
this
be
looks
first
way
in line.
more. This looks way more tragic than that. Apparently, her son died, her 17-year-old son, and then she started tweeting, "I've decided to follow my son. There's no
Oh my
point living
God.
without him." Yeah. So then she went to the hospital 1 week after her 17-year-old son was found dead.
Damn.
That's
Okay,
kind of
so wait, are
romantic,
we-
though.
Saying that like this story fits this whole narrative around like assisted suicide becoming more popular or something like that. Like it's, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
Maybe
I guess I feel bad for
People that
Sinead
wanting
O'Connor.
like the acceptance of suicide. I don't know. It's a weird. It seems like people are promoting it and stuff like that. I've seen like new, I don't know. I can't give you an example, but I don't know if you've heard any of that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what came first, the chicken or the egg. Like, I think suicide rates were just organically up, and then Netflix made that show to reflect that, and it became like a popular
Yeah.
topic. Is there a baby?
Yes, there is.
That does help. Babies are nice.
Hello, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a horrible thing to happen. I guess.
Yeah.
Your son dies, and so you don't know what to do.
It's romantic.
I
mean,
couldn't even imagine. I mean, unless
Yeah.
you're Eric Clapton, and you just are negligent and then decide to write a song about it.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, that would be heartbreaking.
Raphael, what is this?
Well, this may relate. Maybe you first want to bring up whatever you wanted to talk about that recent movie, because I just watched this interview, and this kind of relates the potential idea of trafficking with UFO, so-called UFO appearances,
Right.
and
What's
who
the
may
name of
actually be.
What's the name of the movie again? Because it's all over.
Sound of
Sound Freedom. And
Sounds like it was written by like Trey Parker or something.
and
Sound of Freedom.
let's just check Deseret News, which is definitely a Mormon thing with that B in that name. An unassuming faith-based movie from a Utah-based studio has become the unexpected hit of the summer. Gee, what do we know about that? Angel Studios' Sound of Freeman, the anti-sex trafficking thriller based on the life experiences of Tim Ballard, has passed more than 100 million in the box office. Okay, this is all well and good sounding, right? So it's talking about anti-sex trafficking. We can all say that sounds on the surface like a good thing. Sound of Freedom has become the people's movie, said Jared Giese, senior vice president of global distribution with Angel Studios, in a press release. The film is dominating the box office as the result of a ground-up grassroots movement of everyday people who are making this an historic success. So I would say there's been like TikToks and things. I've got all sorts of these people saying, "Oh man, the movie was hard for people to see." No, not for me. But I heard that at this movie theater, I saw a video about it. That this movie theater, they couldn't watch the movie. They were told that they had to leave. I mean, so there's a lot of rumors that the movie was like hard to see, making more people want to go see the movie because they'd heard that the movie is hard to get into.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It sounds like a honeypot.
But I couldn't find anybody who'd actually experienced that. Anyway, then there's also Jim Caviezel. What's his name again?
Jim Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel? Really?
Caviezel.
Like a weasel? Anyway, I don't hate anybody, but
JC, Jim Caviezel, Jesus Christ.
I just thought it was weird because when you look at I'm sorry, what's the name of the guy? Andy. I'm sorry.
Jim Caviezel?
No, the psychiatrist for Kanye.
Oh, Harley Pasternak.
Yeah, Pasternak. Okay, so let's go back a step. So guys, if you remember, if you've been paying attention to this, if you haven't, it's all right. Kanye West was like, "Hey, I'm really sick and tired of these crazy psychiatrists. There's this Canadian psychiatrist who's telling me I'm not allowed to see my family anymore unless I take these weird drugs and I do what he says." And he actually pulled out some some text saying, I'm going to help you one of a couple ways. First, you and I sit down and we have a loving and open conversation. Look at that double space in there too. But you don't use cuss words, and everything that is discussed is based in fact and not some crazy stuff that some dumb friend of yours told you or you saw in a tweet. Second opinion, I have you institutionalized. A second option, I have you institutionalized again, where they medicate the crap out of you and you go back to the zombie land forever. Play date with the kids just won't be the same. All right, so this is Pasternak. And Pasternak is known to kind of do this, whether not necessarily aggressively or not, if people go with the program or not, to a bunch of other people, right? And one of them is Jim Caviezel.
Right. But that was I believe it was Harley's first star. That was like his first star client.
Right. So I find that kind of weird, right? So his connection to Kanye's military psychiatrist, basically, this celebrity psychiatrist who parades as an exercise fitness doctor or something like that in Hollywood.
I mean, in Caviezel's possible defense, I'll give what someone said to me online. It was the first thing that someone said that like made any sense to me, which was, well, Jim Caviezel already claims that he's seen how evil it all is, so he stepped away. And I know I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's a convenient story anyway from any of these celebrities, but giving the benefit of the doubt like that, sure, that's a fair point that like he may have witnessed stuff from Harley or something else and then stepped away. I mean, I can get with that on some level, but I don't know. I try not to trust anything I hear from Hollywood at all, you know? Because I mean, I don't know if I brought this up on this show, but maybe on Sync Tank or something, but I see this constant replaying, this synchronicity with the movie Departed, with that whole situation where Leonardo DiCaprio can't be on the state troopers team. He has to they have to put him through jail. They have to get him into the system, look like a criminal. Then he can get out and then he can infiltrate the mob, you know? And it feels like that from a lot of these celebrities that are suddenly open to everything. And I don't know. That's just my take on it, but I could be just paranoid.
I definitely think you got a point, Andy, there, because, they're always trying to catch some polarization and then, catch the opposition, because anyhow it's going to blow up, but make sure they don't know the real stuff about it or what could really be threatening. I can read one thing because this was posted on locally here as well about that movie. So just a few tidbits. Tim Ballard, I got the picture. I can't get it here so quickly, and it's not online, only on Telegram. But Tim Ballard was photographed with a Freemason tie. Checked it out. Looks legit. I mean, who's not a Freemason today? So it doesn't mean anything.
He's also a Knight Templar. Yeah, sorry.
Although he's from a Mormon family, his great-grandfather, Melvin J. Ballard, you will love this, Andreas, was one of the founding apostles of the Mormon Church.
Yeah.
That
was where I was going.
And he has hundreds of kids or something, doesn't he?
And his father, and Russell Ballard, is the president of the College of the 12 Apostles. Tim Ballard is the general state attorney for Utah. Yeah, Sean Reyes and the executive producer of Sound of Freedom, Paul Hutchinson, seem to be Templars. And Ballard started his career at the CIA in 2001. And also there's some Clinton donations, supposedly. There's more. There's a few more paragraphs of this.
Well, Carlos Slim as well. The funding of the movie came mainly from Carlos Slim, and that's a rabbit hole on its own. I mean, he's been accused of being involved with child trafficking and stuff himself in Mexico. So it's very interesting. And yeah, connections to the Clinton Foundation, big time, talking $25-50 million donations.
What a name.
He's Lebanese. He's not actually Mexican, but he's the guy that invented the remittance scheme and the phone card scheme, remittances via phone cards and stuff like that. And he bought the New York Times in, I think, 2004. I think he bought the New York Times, and he sold it maybe a year or two ago. But he's a capitalist. I saw some people calling him a globalist. I'm like, no, he's if you look up capitalist in the dictionary, it's Carlos Slim. You know what I mean? He went to a third world country, essentially, or second world country. And I don't know the definitions.
I'm really curious about like these Brigham Youngers, like the Angel Studios. Like that's pretty interesting that they're in Provo.
Does anyone else think it's crazy that everyone has an opinion on this? Like it's a movie and it's about something topical, but like everyone's either for or against it. And it makes me feel alienated from a community I used to feel a part of, the truther community.
Right.
It makes me just feel like I've gone into the Twilight Zone, and I don't understand why anyone has an opinion about this movie one way or the other.
Well, yeah, I guess that's then don't talk about Barbie or Oppenheimer, because all the movies they make are for no other reason than hopefully to get a little bit of their esoteric nonsense into your face. Like they have no other gimmick at this point, and they don't really care if you see it. So you kind of have to hope you get anything out of life. That's kind of where you're at with the movies these days.
Did you guys see it? I didn't see that movie, but I had somebody break up with me on Instagram. They wrote me and they're like, "Oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. Do you still do talkie time?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Oh, have you seen Sound of Freedom?" No. They're like, "Oh, you really need to go see it and like support it." And I was like, "No, I don't want to see an upsetting movie." Like literally, I watch movies like Marvel movies, stupid idiot animated movies for kids to try to enjoy myself. So I was just like, "No, thanks" on that. And they're like, "Wow, I thought better of you. I didn't think you." And I was like, "Oh, really? That's interesting to know." And then they like blocked me, like someone I've known for like 3 or 4 years. So I think that people have people now are in like they miss the adrenaline rush of like the world's on the brink. The world isn't on the brink. It's settled into this. This is the reset happened. This is where we start now. Little changes rolling out.
Like brinks per minute.
People want to go back. They want to shake the box again and more chaos. They're like, more chaos, more QAnon theories. Like it can't just be like this forever. And it's like, yeah, we're back to Normieville. This is it.
Yeah. It's a double control. Like they're working both sides of it, especially now that you mentioned all the Mormons involved, because like the CIA recruits heavily from Mormons for some reason. I don't know. They just take direction well and believe in interesting things.
Study a new language. You don't have to either don't drink or take drugs. They're pretty practical.
Also, most of the main tenets are Freemasonic as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Anymore.
Yeah, so it's like not only do they fund and release the movie, they also do the weird like we're shutting it down, we're shutting down this thing that we made, so it's kind of brilliant. The controversy. Yeah And it's all to cover up from some other news that is happening today. I don't know.
Can somebody explain to me the distraction theory? Because I hear people talk about distractions all the time, but I've never. It's like the underwear gnomes, where they steal your underwear, then step 2 is question mark, and then profit.
I mean, I got a couple more.
Explain to me the whole distraction model, like what happens.
Here's one. Parents are using AirTags to track and give them freedom. Give them freedom, right? This is the kind of, we get an article about how your kids are supposed to be tracked, and like how if you get an AirTag, it'll make it easier for your kids to wander around because I know where they are. And Taliban's closing down beauty salons, etc. There's a couple Celtic things. We're almost there. Where's the one? Oh, we should do the DNA thing too, because Machu Picchu, we just proved everything's real. The plea deal, the coins that Trump is giving up, and then they killed the chef. But once you get past that, I think we're up to the X-Files stuff. And that's basically, that's how that works. That's how they did the news this week. So there's a bunch of nonsense that we're supposed to cover. I mean, this is kind of cool, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, maybe we'll go back to the Celtic part. And the DNA in Machu Picchu shows that people from all over were living in Machu Picchu, proving it was a trade area and not some sort of xenophobic empire. Which is exactly what we've been saying and what anthropologists have been saying for 20 years now, but wasn't accepted until basically today, which is pretty cool. But
pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I wonder how high the sea levels would have to be for that to be like a port city.
Well, also, I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if there's air travel in this.
Oh yeah, I always forget about that.
Yeah, because they have silk bags. They have all sorts of different kinds of materials that they're making gliders from. And the Machu Picchu today, like they still have these little squirrel suits and they do these glides. So if someone had something that they could do lifts back and forth, because these things are equal distance from each other, right? As if it were a lake across it. But yeah, that would be pretty nuts. Unless it was just so ancient that it wouldn't make sense because the mountains being pushed up would have had to be,
I think it would make sense that it would be on top of a higher plateau anyway than the rest of the area. And yeah, it would be way out of the sea, because these old kingdoms that we talk about, most of the references always talk about these gods or these kings, these lineages being on top of mountains, basically everywhere.
But this is very similar also to Titicaca, which is all directly on water. So it's kind of, but there's another one in the mountains in Bolivia that they started to build and they abandoned so they could go to Machu Picchu, because for whatever reason they decided this was the place to do it. So there's got to be a couple reasons to it, and I mean, you couldn't ignore like the fact that the elevation is about the height of the base camp Mount Everest. You know, it's pretty thin oxygen. Yeah. Sticky Marks, 5 pounds. Howdy, Lurven Peas from Yorkshire. Would you love Yorkshire? Thank you very much. Well, okay. Do you guys want to talk about the Hunter Biden plea deal, or is that just a bunch of nonsense? You can go ahead and comment. I mean, they're ripping it up, they want to say. So basically what they're doing is they're making a bigger deal out of it. So that's at least the thing. I thought they were going to make no deal out of it. So this is at least something they're using for a drama show. But it seems like it's already kind of taken care of.
That's true.
All right.
I don't know. Are we going to have like a great national healing when Hunter Biden goes to prison or something? Like, is there any? What do we get from that anyhow?
I think it's tied. I think it's tied to the Trump returning his ancient coins and lamps to Israel, because Israel's printing. So he's got a bunch of coins from Israel. He's returning them to Israel, and then they're going to print a bunch of coins commemoratively with his face on them in Israel. So I'm sure this is all tied together somehow. Yeah.
You know, he did a private screening with Caviezel too to watch Sound of Freedom, right?
Oh,
Caviezel's like all loving it and talking about it. Trump's gonna save more children than you've ever seen.
Oh, he's gonna save the best.
Direct quote.
Of the children. He's gonna save the best of the children.
I seen Roseanne on our friend's show the other night was saying very similar things, you know, like children, they're getting out of the tunnels right now. Everything's going to be revealed. And there's a lot of people out there, smart people who think that way, you know?
So what I think is happening is that they're giving so many towns fentanyl that they're going to just like replace them with all the kids that they're raising in Walmarts this generation. Oh my God.
Did you guys
militant nationalist kids, these orphanages in Walmarts that Trump and Obama and Clinton built? Those those are going to be eventually the people that they fill in to work at TSMC or these Taiwanese semiconductor companies they build in Arizona.
Are there?
You've brought up the orphanages before, right? Where like there was this sudden influx of children around the turn of the century that appeared out of nowhere by rail.
Orphan trains.
Yeah, definitely talking about orphan trains. But I was looking earlier at a foundling thing. I don't know if I can find this. France. Can I find it? France baby busts. This was an article I saw earlier. So what happened with France? They used to have like 6 babies like everything else, and the Catholic Church came in, and all of a sudden women weren't allowed to have their own babies, started snatching up babies. And France was used as this, once they started hitting this huge amount, then the United Kingdom jumped above them. And they couldn't figure out where, historically later on looking back, they're like, where did this happen? And they can account for it in some ways, like there's syphilis and there's like venereal outbreaks. But what it turns out is a lot of the babies weren't counted because the Catholic Church just took them and then they spread them across Europe. So how many babies? Well, 4 out of 6 is what it looks like.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, it's pretty brutal. But also then where they go? Well, so to America, right? Or to the Americas. So you've got French babies in the rainforest or in Mississippi or whatever, like these Arcadian babies. So there's a lot of that going on in the 19th century. And it's about to happen again, probably. That seems like the next major thing to go on. What about the chef that got murdered, right?
Whose chef was it? Kevin Spacey's.
It was Obama's personal chef.
Evidence-free conspiracy theories about Obama's chef get a boost on X. So apparently now people
Elon Musk named his company after you, Andreas.
I'm pretty excited about it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's Obama's second chef to drown.
Yeah. Right? What's up with that? I can't even believe.
Did the other one drown too, or just die? How did his first chef die?
I thought the first one I thought the first one fell from the weight of the bullet into his back while he was escaping on a bicycle that he stole after seeing Michael's. Never mind. Sorry.
But honestly, the first Obama chef that died, did he drown also? I think he drowned too.
I think he was supposed to be the second to drown. Yeah, that was the story, right?
That's pretty intense.
But there was some story about a bicycle too.
Why would you? I mean, Why would you put him in your own pond, though? I mean, if you're Obama, you think you could have someone who could at least get him 10 miles away from your house. I mean, you put him on your own property, just in the water. I mean, you could see it from like a drone or anything, just under. How deep is the pond? I mean,
yeah. Why call attention?
No. So yeah, maybe it's possible that this guy just drowned in their pond.
He's a black guy sailboarding. You know, the odds of drowning are pretty good right there. How many black guys do you see sailboarding?
It's true. It's true.
I mean, yeah, so that's the way they're going to present it, is this supplied racism. But this seems like it really, like, just looking at his face, I feel sad that this person's lost. I feel like they probably were like a good chef, trying to do their best to become the best chef they could be. That turned out to be presidential chef, and that's not a great place for anyone, probably. It's probably a really dangerous place to be.
Proximity is a bit.
He looks young, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Campbell's body recovered 100 feet from shore on Monday morning by Massachusetts State Police divers after receiving a 9/11 call from the 30-acre waterfront Obama mansion. Police said witnesses on Sunday observed a male paddleboarder who had gone into the water, appeared to briefly struggle to stay on the surface, and then submerged and did not resurface. Another paddleboarder was on the pond with him at the time and observed him go under the water. What? Okay, who was the other paddleboarder?
Yeah, who's that guy?
Safari was a beloved part of our family. When we first met him, he was a talented sous chef at the White House, creative and passionate about food and its ability to bring people together. In the years that followed, we got to know him as a warm, fun, extraordinary, kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter. That's why we were getting ready to leave. When we were getting ready to leave the White House, we asked for Tafari to stay with us, and he generously agreed. He's been part of our lives ever since. Our hearts are broken that he's gone. Today, we join everyone who knew and loved Tafari, and especially his wife, Cherie, and their boys, Xavier and Zaven, in grieving the loss of a truly wonderful man. Yeah, interesting kind of Jesuit-y names. MSP claimed that the Campbell was visiting Martha's Vineyards at the time of his passing. President and Miss Obama were not present at the residence at the time of this accident. The circumstances of Campbell's death are still under investigation. The investigation of the fatality is being conducted by the state police.
He had a tweet with "Still can't swim," right? But somebody in the chat just said that there's a video of him swimming, so I don't know if that was a joke or what. But he had tweeted out that he can't swim.
Bruh.
So you'd think you wouldn't go, you know.
Is that real? Water. I haven't found that tweet.
Yeah, that's why they put that hashtag at the end of the article. Still can't swim. He tweeted that out himself, but now Holly in the chat is saying that there's videos of him swimming. So I think the guy just drowned, man. I think it's exactly what they're reporting it is. I don't think this one's a conspiracy.
Did you see that
why
stuff
would you
about
put him in
Kevin
your own
Spacey?
pond?
Yeah, he got out.
What happened with Kevin?
If somebody could draw it out for me, all the steps of why you put him in your own pond and make it make sense, and I'd entertain
exactly.
it. Somebody's got to at least give me a theory to entertain. I keep getting like these partial theories where I'm like, what am I even considering?
Right.
Put him in the freaking ocean. It's right there. Yeah. It's literally like the ocean's like 100 yards from the pond.
I think the thing is like it's clear who's in charge, and so they can kind of dictate what happens. And so now this is all fine again.
Yeah, I mean, Dick Cheney shot his friend in the face.
Yeah.
And the dude apologized.
And the guy apologized to him.
Yeah.
For getting shot in the face. He's like, sorry that happened.
That's pretty brutal. All right, we did it. Aliens. So now here's the kicker. We have alien contact. We have contacted aliens and have aliens. But we're not able, like, do we have them? I guess is the idea. Like, there's aliens that, like, the agency has these aliens, but they won't talk, and so we need to use like aggressive force. Not since Guantanamo Bay and the Patriot Act have we seen. That's what it sounds like. Is that right? Like, is that what today's news is? Former Navy pilot Ryan Graves details. Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, no, that's basically the gist. It's like they're putting pressure to disclose because it's a matter of national security. I'm not quite sure what their angle is on that, but my suspicions sort of arose when Space Force was a thing. It's like, what kind of news do you have to hear to want to start a Space Force? So I think, did they talk about how they have the eyewitnesses of the bodies of the pilots. Like they said that we're in possession of those corpses and their technology.
Pink Trip, did you hear this? You know about the aliens? That apparently we have aliens, and the aliens, they've got their crash site, they got their bodies, all this stuff. That's today's news. I mean, they want to go deeper into it, but they won't tell us. Or
of course. Well, it was kind of a
the government. It's a lie.
Yeah.
They're pushing for a way to have like an official way to report these things, because as of now, it's like they report it and then it gets brushed under the rug. It's like not supposed to talk about it. Nah, hush, hush, keep it quiet. Like whether you're commercial or a private pilot or employed by the government, they're not allowed to say anything about it. So now they want to have some accountability there.
I'm kind of confused by the way they're parsing their language, like non-terrestrial crafts, non-human DNA found. Like, was it a dog or you know what I mean? Like, or an alien?
Well,
like, there's pretty distinct difference.
I think the sort of operative word here, even after changing the terminology from UFO to UAP, is that U still maintains the meaning of unidentified. They don't know where it's from. They don't know when it's from. I think my fiance was saying earlier that they were referring to the beings as multidimensional or interdimensional.
Is Sam here? Is Sam?
Oh shoot!
I thought that somebody said something about UFOs, UAPs, aliens, and something, so I figured. Anyways, broadcasting live deep from an underground military bunker or a spaceship high above the plane of Earth from the most trusted puppet in media, reporting since Roswell. I'm Sam Newsman. Gentlemen, I heard you were talking about UFOs and congressional hearings of the sort and all of that nonsense. Well, listen, as a trusted media professional, a real media puppet, and being that I was on the scene at Roswell, I can just tell you that what you're seeing is a distraction. That's it. It's a distraction. I can't really articulate it any better than that, but it is a distraction. As someone, once again, who has signed plenty of NDAs when it comes to classified material, I'm just going to tell you right now, just don't follow along with the dog and pony show. You might as well, I don't know, just go skip a rock on a pond or something. It's ridiculous.
You don't think it's possible that there's like aliens that are controlling people's bodies or something like that, using them like puppets or something?
No, that's called drugs. Yeah, that's just called drugs. No, it has nothing to do with aliens. It has everything to do with escapism. Escapism.
So I mean, this is crazy. So in other words, we just looked at like 5 or 6 stories, but they all seem kind of to be a cover, right? What's going on? What's going on here?
Well, the fact is that, well, I can't get into it. Remember, I told you that I signed all those NDAs. Listen, they're still watching somewhere. Hold on, wait.
Oh man, I think, yeah, guys. I'm sorry. I think he's gonna have to be censored.
Anyway, so here we are. Yes, no, everything is fine. Everything is fine, and I'm just telling you right now, just don't be led by the dog and pony show. If you want to believe in little green and gray men, that's okay. A lot of people believe in flying spaghetti monsters and the sort as well. I'm not going to deter you of your belief systems, but
they're not hiding info on alien crafts.
Believe what you will. Believe what you will.
You don't think they're hiding info on alien crafts?
There's no such thing as alien crafts.
Publishing their own patents,
It's just military. Right. It's just military classified.
Right. That seems like to be what's going on.
That's all I can say. Just classified military stuff.
Maybe you want to bring up the interview again I pulled up earlier, or you pulled up earlier, Andreas, because he's actually mentioning that this happened during a crisis, I forgot where, in early 2000s. And a lot of people, of course, go missing in these wars and crises. And he saw these kind of unidentified, shapes. He seemed genuine from what I can tell. This also didn't, even though it has a lot of views, didn't appear so much as a, CIA front operation. And he's basically suggesting that, of course, the alien cover is being used, that alphabet soup agencies can swoop up people and traffic them and so on,
Right. So, yeah, we're hearing that these things are alien. they're non-human, but that could just be a dog and the CIA like
that.
NASA
Yeah,
rocket. Exactly.
that guy right there in the big picture. He used to be a private military contractor, and yeah. So
hook, line, and sinker. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think it's interesting that at one point in the hearing today, they brought up, they asked Grush directly if the DOE has anything to do with the collection of UAP data and information and things like that. And he said that he was not comfortable talking about that in public session, but in secure session, he'd be willing to answer. And what does that sound like to you? That reminds me of when Colby was asked at the church hearings about having the CIA involved in all of our media.
Right.
And he said, well, this is getting into the material.
No, we can't talk about that.
We didn't rehearse this
Hold on.
part.
Pump the brakes.
We didn't rehearse this part.
Executive session.
We can't go into that. Absolutely.
Sounds a lot like that. So, and it's funny because I think, Andreas, I brought up to you, and I think I brought up on the show. I know I brought it up all over Twitter and my show about, 8 people working, micro influencers in the community working directly with the DOE. And everyone kind of looked at me like, DOE, what does that have to do with UFOs and UAP? It's like, just
hey,
wait.
Listen, here's my question. What the hell does Blink 182 have to do with UFOs and UFP? I mean, come on
because
now.
San Diego is this disclosure operation.
San Diego Masonic Lodge, basically.
Ridiculous.
But Sam, I know you've got some interesting stories for us. Did you want to tell us some things?
Yes, I have 2 stories to go around the horn. Let everybody comment on them. The first one is very interesting. Hold on, let me pull this up here. I have the computer here. I have little felt fingers. So, here we go. So this has to do with deep fakes imagery being implanted by scientists. What do I mean by that? Well, imagine Will Smith being Neo in The Matrix and people having induced imagery in their brain by scientists. Researchers have found that they can incept false memories by showing subjects deep fake clips of movie remakes that were never actually produced. Recently, a published paper, PLOS, deepfake clips of made-up movies were convincing enough to trick participants into believing they were real. Some went as far as to rank the fake movies, which, like I said, had Will Smith starring in a rebooted Matrix, with some people saying that, well, something like Captain Marvel was better than the original. So anyways, the study did say, however, deepfakes were no more effective than simple text descriptions at distorting memory, suggesting that deepfakes aren't entirely necessary to trick somebody into accepting a false memory. False memories is a rabbit hole right there somewhere, going all the way back to CERN and the Mandela effect, I'm sure. So, but around the horn, what does anyone have to say about this particular story? Go ahead.
Will Smith was supposed to be Neo in the original Matrix, but he turned it down so he could be in Wild Wild West.
Aha. There you go. That's and the more you know. The more you know. But seriously, I wanted to ask you guys, what did you think about this story? I thought it was very interesting in terms of false memories. A lot of people say Berenstain Bears. Some people think that Mandela died in a prison. Some people say that he got out.
Yeah, there's a huge
what is it?
rabbit hole about the false memories. My real issue is, I don't live in America, but I went there in 2015 and I love to eat healthy. So I was looking for proper vinegar and I bought apple cider vinegar with the mother and it said Bragg's on the label. And I know specifically because I went to different supermarkets at different times and I knew exactly what I was looking for, exactly how the label looks. And today, supposedly, it never even looked that way. You can find any pictures, people pull out the old bottles, and it's Bragg. There is no apostrophe S. I asked a few friends, they had it similarly. So just for me, I have to say, unless I want to, deny the validity of my own experience, there has to be something there. Even though many cases can be false memory and all these things and deep faking and changing things, but I experienced one so directly and so explicitly that it's almost like a message from myself to myself that there is something here, otherwise I wouldn't get that. And it was also just half a year before the whole thing popped about, there's Mandela effect. I'm watching videos and I'm like, oh damn, there's this thing I was just deliberately buying 5 times during my 3-month stay in America. So
you got to realize memories are very unreliable. Like if you look at any situation where you have a ton of witnesses all witnessing the same thing, you'll get a ton of different descriptions of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's why the police have to interview all the different people and try to piece it all together from different sources.
Yeah, like the JFK assassination. Like there's like people that witness. There's a video that just came out about like all the witnesses and all the different testimony and how none of it lines up. It's like everybody witnessed a different thing.
Mm.
The problem is there's too many possible explanations and none of them sync up with normalcy bias. So there's no way to sift between them besides personal bias or what you enjoy more to believe. But I mean, it could be CERN did it. It could be that, you know, we're all living from instance to instance and some people move from one where their eyes are blue to their eyes are brown and other people don't share that experience. It could be the CIA implanting this stuff in your head. It could be a natural phenomenon. It could be a butterfly that does it, shoots it into your, I mean, we have no idea. So there's like a million possible things that could be causing this and no way to rank them because nothing rhymes with anything we have any hard experience with. So what do we, it's maddening. And can you imagine people who aren't on the internet? For all of us who have been on the internet this whole time, engaging heavily, we've entertained simulation theory, everything that we talk about on this show. You know what I mean? We seriously entertain this stuff. We're essentially a different kind of thinker. Can you imagine Amish people observing us go through these changes since like 2012 when the internet started getting weird and they're not on the internet? They're like, boy, 99% of the human species is getting pretty weird. And they're like pretty near to us. They're acting really weird right now, you know, and it's like, how scared they must be of us just watching us go through these mental changes.
Well, listen, I tell you what, if they invited me to churn butter, I'd have to decline. I would have to decline. I would mess up my felt. And I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing.
Imagine if you were putting it like you were deep frozen in like 2011 and they woke you up in 2021 and it's like all of your friends are like, yeah, we live in the simulation, you know, and like, or just we're created by Anunnakis, like in the simulation, like people just giving you all this new information. You're like, when did we learn all this? What?
Yeah, I think though also the fact that the movie choice that they're doing The Matrix with Will Smith, when that is something that was supposed to happen in another timeline that would have happened,
right?
So that's not really helpful because that could easily be from another timeline. We need something more.
It's the first thing I would do if I had like Photoshop and Illustrator skills. Right. It's the first thing I would do. And somebody said there was a genie movie with Sinbad, I would make that freaking clip. I'd be the first one to do it.
So there's for fun. It's either the most logical thing to happen in another timeline if the other timelines exist, or it's the most likely thing to be counterfeited. So what you need is something that's more irrational to see if you can implant that memory, like Stephen Hawking as Neo or something.
Well, here's one of the things they said. They mentioned Charlize Theron as Captain Marvel, with everyone that saw it saying that the Charlize Theron version was better. So
I can see it. I can see it.
You think in 20 years you'll be able to find a picture of the 1 year, or if they do it again next year, that Sports Illustrated put a man for the swimsuit issue? Do you think you'll ever be able to find that image in 20 years? I don't think you will. I think it'll be erased from memory just because it'll be too embarrassing and they'll figure out how to do it.
And there's less magazines now. So you can maybe find someone's copy of Sports Illustrated from the 70s, but like from the 2000s, I think that there's going to... People don't keep their magazines as much.
The implications of this line of thinking are insane. There's people there's people right now making like perfect replicas of like old versions of Berenstain Bears spelled the other way, perfectly aged VHS cases. There's people. It might exist for real, and there's still people faking it. So the amount of options this opens up is just paralyzing. I
wanted to say something about that. The only reason why Mandela Effect was ever attracted to me at all was the Berenstain Bears thing, but for a specific reason, because the two options we have are AI or EI, right? Those are the two things we're playing with. In what American family is saying the letters AI together as, what was it, stain? Or I'm sorry, that's the, so yeah, Berenstain. I'm sorry. Right. I'm sorry. So okay.
As opposed to Berenstain.
I don't know.
Which I mean, I guess they would be Jewish then at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And the author is Bavarian, and that's how you spell that name in Bavaria. So
right. So they were.
So what they like? Why would you ever pronounce AI as?
So it's not.
And why would so many kids remember?
It's not
normalcy bias because you look at the word and your eyes glaze over it. I just put up a trailer for a music video today with the wrong date, and I watched it 100 million times. And someone who saw it the first time, like, that's the wrong date, and it's like I didn't know, the director didn't know, all these people didn't know who worked on it. So I think I think it's totally possible. You look at it, it reminds you of something you know, and you're like, boom, that's what it is. I used to read like I'm kind of dyslexic. I would read like Dragonlance novels when I was a little kid. There's a knight called Sturm. I thought his name was Strum, like strumming a guitar. I read like 7 books with him in it.
Okay, I'm gonna put myself on the spot now. Can you imagine a scenario where I'm going there for the first time? I see this very strange Bragg's label, which looks totally organic because it's so badly made. For the first time, I see the name. How can I insert '*S?
That's totally different. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm just saying. So I guess that's my experience. And then I'm like,
Right.
And with others, I also heard that supposedly the song in Berenstain Bears sounded so similar or something. But
Right.
even here, I mean, what is it? Luke, I'm your father. No, I am your father, or whatever. And so many more things. So
there's a thing with Berenstain Bears.
C-3PO has a silver leg.
Well, what's interesting with Berenstain Bears is that Berenstain versus Berenstain comes down to the story that the grandson told. He said, okay, it's always been Berenstain because 1,000 years ago or something, when the Crimean Tartars invaded that part of where the family was living, the name would have become, if the German Visigoths had won, Stein, but because the Russian Tartars had won, it became Stan, right? So the last name changed. Stone became Stan. And so it would have been if these people had won this war, but that it was also the Tartars seemed pretty interesting. Hey, New Anomaly, we love you. Welcome back. Glad we didn't have to save you from the men in suits. You should totally do an episode on the crypto situation. That would be cool. You should join us for that. That seems like not a bad thing to talk about at some point. We did talk a little bit about pump and dump schemes that might be going on with the X.com.
And just as we're on the idea of topics, who else would be in for a Dune podcast? I totally want to talk about Dune. There's so much there, I think.
You got it.
So the last thing, of course, Chris Pratt, Indiana Jones. That was another false memory. Chris Pratt as Indiana Jones, but
wow, never heard that.
But so those are that was just some of that. So, anyways, that was a good discussion. I knew that would kind of take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Something completely different. Well, let me see if I can pull this.
Hey, is that Snuffleupagus behind you?
What the who? With the
the brown guy behind you? Is that Snuffy?
Listen, I have no idea what you're talking about. Something about a Lord, something about a Lord blanket. I'm not really sure. I guess we can maybe go. I don't know. Something. There's rumors about Lord blanket. I have no idea. Anyway, something that we can get to. We can go down that rabbit hole another time. Hold on. Wait.
This guy's having a blast.
Okay. No. So now here's the next story. A little bit different story, a little bit different rabbit hole, but I'm sure that everyone would be able to talk about this. High school shop class is back, and it is showing students alternatives to traditional college. So I guess people have been talking about this for a while. Let me see if I can get this up and running here. Hold on. There we go. Is that going to work?
Now you can get a plumber for $500 and an art history major for free.
That's right. 30 years ago, high school shop class seemed on track for extinction as school funding became a matter of standardized test scores in reading and math. The budget tightened for classes that taught woodworking and printmaking, and from the 1990s to the early 2010s, students took fewer credits in shop class, now called career tech education. According to data from the National Center of Education Statistics, instead, the priority turned to securing students' spot in 4-year degree programs. But with more job openings in trades and more questions around the value of a 4 years college degrees, high schools are turning their attention back to equipping the next generation with hands-on technical skills. So it seems that people have been saying this for a while, and I'm sure that all of you could speak to this, but practical skills such as woodworking and woodmaking, shop class, I'm sure automotive is another one. But so here we are. It seems that the whole idea and the concept of a trade skill is coming back, and it's coming back in full force. So I'll go once again around the horn. Gentlemen, whoever wants to take the floor first. Interesting topic. So what do you have to say about that? Not everybody at once now.
I feel like
you want to transform. You got to transform this 2x4 into a birdhouse. You know, that's the way to start. I like it.
I mean, maybe billionaires are running out of bespoke dresser drawers and wooden cabinets and china cabinets to purchase, and they're like, we're going to need someone to make more of these. Like, we don't have enough to go into. I don't want my grandson to live without a bespoke, maple bar top or something.
Yeah, granite countertops and crown molding. I always tell people, listen, if you grew up in a house with granite countertops and crown molding, listen, you're doing pretty well. You're doing pretty well.
It's true though. I was driving on the highway and I was noticing like people have to pick strawberries still, and like there was a point when they introduced the bowl, is that right, tomato, in order that it's a less sweet and a less nutritious tomato that's not as good, but it's a thicker skin so machines can pick it. So choices have to be made, and people will probably have another generation of doing certain kinds of fine labor that machines haven't been found to automate yet. But automation's coming really hard. So.
Well, that goes back to a story, I think, a couple of weeks ago where they were saying that I think about 80% of jobs will be, or 80 or 86% of jobs will be controlled by AI by 2030, I believe, something of that effect.
Yeah, see, that's good, though. See, also the idea, so that's why people are most afraid of AI, because the idea of AI replacing you flipping burgers doesn't bother me. But AI replacing CEOs, like you just said, running jobs, that's kind of an interesting thing, because if you remove the CEO, then you remove a major potential for someone to have gross negligence, excessive power. Maybe it is that the less trillionaires there are, the less opportunity that there is for sin in people, right? There's only so many people that can be that evil. So you kind of want to reduce the amount of people that have that opportunity.
Or you
Drink
could just
to that.
Cheers. You could do that too.
I think there's nothing better than an organic billionaire or like an organic trillionaire. And there's nothing worse than kind of like astroturfed billionaires, which is what we have now. At some point, alumni newsletters can't gloss over the fact that the diplomas they're giving out don't get people jobs. You know what I mean?
So that's like, absolutely
there's only
correct.
so long you can gloss over that. Like, prices keep going up, job opportunities the value of the degree goes down. Like, we've been covering this for 10 years. Now we're debating taking taxpayer money to pay back all the people who have degrees and can't get jobs. So it's like, at some point you can't gloss over that, and you have to be like, I don't know. They probably own the freaking trade schools too, man. I don't know. The tuition will probably go up at carpentry schools.
The community colleges.
Kurt, I know you have thoughts on schooling. What are you going to have to say about this?
Well, as far as at least education, at least we made it partially public by doing federal funding for public for state schools and university as well. And we've had certain effects that came out of that, and not all of them have been positive. And I think part of that was university has always been a little bit of a status symbol for more wealthy and affluent individuals. And when you liberate a little bit of that, some of it becomes a little bit of a game. If you have a very classist society, if you do, then that can definitely push things in the directions where people with that power, they go, okay, this doesn't show us that power as much. And so how do we devalue this and find other ways in order to establish our class? So, I mean, that's only a lens, and you know, people can call you a Marxist for, taking that lens, but I think it's one that's at least partially true. And so that's at least part of the game, is like, we've diluted the pool to the point where it only had one direction to go, and that was to be less valuable over time. So there's different theories about how to actually correct that, but it does seem like we're kind of in a bit of a bind, because a lot of there's so many directions you go. I want to mention China, but that's like its whole other tangent.
Another rabbit hole. Rabbit hole.
Yeah. In terms of like how they've produced things over the past 100 years, and how I think it's kind of screwed over the Chinese economy to a certain degree, having them be the ones that produce everything. And if we did get back on the production side, there probably would be very good positive things on that. I think also there's a very good thing about producing things domestically that connects you a little bit more to the product. And I think that takes away a little bit of the dehumanizing, overseas corporate sweatshop factor when you actually start producing your own materials. So there are positive aspects there as well, but I guess the biggest highlight of all of that is like if humanity wants to feel like we're moving forward, I think that feeling in and of itself, it can actually be a very distorting feeling. Just having that need to feel like, oh, are we advancing into the future? We don't necessarily need to have that feeling. We don't need to advance, if we're, if everything else is going okay, in my opinion.
You want to get sustainable. Like, what's the point of being evil if you can't be evil sustainably?
Exactly.
Well, I guess,
right?
Okay, so real quick, my question is then, so what happens to the old money institutions, otherwise known as university and colleges? What happens to them over the course of time? Do they continue to remain institutions of higher learning for the masses, or people who just have actually the people who just have family members that are there? Well, is there some type of college collapse, reset, or something to that effect, where they have to understand that nobody needs a gender studies major when I could go learn how to change a damn pipe and make over $100,000 a year?
No, you have an excellent point.
Here's a temple to mathematics, right? Here's another temple to mathematics. There's tons of temples to sciences. There's nothing wrong with having temples to sciences. Priests go into these temples of science. Nuns go into these temples of science. Tours are done by audiences to see what goes on in these temples of science. You can have temples of science and still have trade schools. They don't have to be the same thing. But it's kind of interesting when people that are at the highest peak intellectual intelligentsia are allowed to exist, and we have to decide: are we going to stop them from being allowed to exist? Because that's what they did in certain points in history.
Real quick, can you just develop the idea of temples of science?
So like in the ancient Sumerian and in Egypt and different in India, they had temples to math and temples like churches of astronomy, and of course astronomy became astrology, and there's all sorts of spiritual things that go off from that. But they also started with actual sciences, and libraries were part of these churches. Even modern European education comes from Jesuit religious schooling, right? The French Jesuit schooling system is basically what we use to this day. So a lot of this stuff comes from the idea of higher learning. But then you could look at like Diocletian. Diocletian was an emperor of Rome, but he came from Dalmatia, and he kind of was, his word really would have been enforcing apprenticeships, enforcing that you learn your father's trade so that bread makers continued to have bread makers generation after generation in these different provinces that were going on. He would force apprenticeships, so you'd have to learn under someone how to do exactly what they did. And that's good if you want to demand that everything's the same, because certain things have to be the same because you want to make sure they exist. But it's bad because it stops innovation, and not everybody needs that much bread, and more people need more bread. Certain places become a larger population, certain places become smaller population. So you can't just be static all the time.
Well, we had way more organic geniuses popping up when people are trying to stifle creativity like this. We used to have an onslaught of geniuses. I mean, look at the development in the human species. We just don't have any anymore. Now we have people like Elon Musk. That's like impressive. Like show me his math theorem or whatever. But you know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, that's why I appreciate just being a puppet.
Even if Elon Musk is all well and good, what happens when he dies? And
what I'm saying is trying to encourage geniuses and be like, we got to encourage all these children to express their genius. Then they all wind up you know what I mean? So it's like things have a way to sort themselves out naturally, which is something like a caste system more so than even like a class system. And also serfdom, you know what I mean, is a hard thing to escape from. And it doesn't even really matter who the lords and who the serfs are. You remove all the lords and it's kind of like you remove a queen bee and another bee becomes a queen bee. Oh my God, it's not Christmas yet. What are you doing?
It is. Well, no, hold on. It's Christmas in July.
There's no such thing. That's sacrilegious.
Gentlemen, yes, it's Christmas in July. And
you're not Santa.
Chestnuts roasting.
No,
Christmas in
mute
July.
him.
No, listen. Okay. The reason why I have this, and gentlemen, thank you so much for the time. I'm going to head out here, let you guys get back to the serious discussions, although I do appreciate your time in the round table, gentlemen.
Sam, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, but one of the things I want to let you guys know, we haven't done this show in a couple weeks, but over the last 2 weeks, I have been in a competition for the best local morning radio show in Richmond, Virginia. Best local morning radio show in Richmond, Virginia. Now, there's a couple of ways to vote, but the easiest way is to just grab your phone, and all you have to do is text 901 to the number 804-569-5678. That's the number 901. There it is right there. Yes. So the best, best of Richmond. Hold on, there it is. Okay, there now I can see it. Yeah, so that is the website, but yes, that's the number right there. Okay, so that number right there, 804-569-5678. All you have to do is text 901 to that number. Text 901 to that number, and you can do that every single day. Every single day from now through July 30th. That's this Sunday. So we call it hashtag Sam the Vote. Hashtag Sam the Vote. Make sure you do it every single day. I'm sure that you have many people in your friends list. Just tell all of them to text it too. I'm sure if everybody in this who's watching right now were to text it every single day, tell all their friends to do it as well, we might be able to make a run. We might be able to make a run for the best local morning radio show. And if you're in the top 3,
what's the number to text? 901?
901. The number is 901. 901 to that number right over there. 901. That's the easiest way to do it. You can go online and register, but I would tell you that what you would need to do is you would probably need to use a local zip code, because I think they started banning people because I have a Saturday morning radio show. You ask, well, Sam, what the hell kind of radio show do you have? Well, every single Saturday morning, your government took away cartoons from you, right? Of course they did. They took away cartoons. And of course, here I came out of retirement about 5 years ago and started broadcasting live on Saturday morning. And you said, well, what are you broadcasting on Saturday morning, Sam? I'm telling you, I'm broadcasting cartoon themes. Keeping Saturday morning alive, the magic alive, the nostalgia alive, every single Saturday morning on WDCE 90.1 FM. WDCE 91. Yes.
If I vote for you from Texas, having never listened to your show, that wouldn't be cheating?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Because listen, I'm telling you right now, what did you used to do on Saturday mornings? You used to wake up. Hell, you would sit there and you couldn't even wake up during the middle of the week, because you'd have to wake up, get on the cheese wagon and go to school. But how come that every Saturday morning you could pop up at 6 a.m. like it's Christmas morning? Why? Because what you were doing, you were watching cartoons.
Yeah,
you're playing with action figures and toys. You were also eating sugary bowls of cereal.
You're voting for a vibe.
Say that again.
You're voting for a vibe.
You're voting for vibe. You're voting for the magic and nostalgia of Saturday morning, hosted by me, a real media puppet. At Sam Newsman, all over social media is where you can find me, at Sam Newsman. Once again, the show, WDCE 90.1 FM. You say, well, Sam, I'm not in Richmond, Virginia. I can't listen to you. Download the Live 365 app. Download the Live 365 app, search WDCE, and you can listen to the show live. Listen, I open up the phone lines. It's a broadcast risk. It is. It's a broadcast risk, but I do it anyway. And then I ask you what song you want to hear on the radio, and I talk to you about the action figures you used to play with when you were watching cartoons, eating a sugary bowl of cereal, and you know what? You can still do that to this day. Or you can at least listen to it while you drop your kids off at the soccer field. Anyways, every Saturday morning, that's where you can find me. Text 901. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's an honor being with you and everyone in the chat. But once again, text 901 to the number over there. Listen to the radio show every Saturday morning. Oh, I'm banned on Instagram. All the way. Yeah, I'm banned on Instagram. I can't live stream on Instagram.
Banned in Boston and on Instagram. I mean, isn't that great? That's how you know.
And listen, I had another video the other day on Tony Bennett's death. They listen, TikTok banned my Tony Bennett death video. Golly, the heartless bastards. Anyways, it was ridiculous. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so here we are. Listen, yeah, I know that was. I did a whole bit on Tony Bennett too. Anyway, so guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Get out of your hair. There he is, right there. Yes, because of you, I left my heart in San Francisco. All that jazz. But you know what? Joy to the world and vote for me. Text 901 Anyways, broadcasting live deep from an underground military bunker or a spaceship high above the plane of Earth from the most trusted puppet in media. Reporting since Roswell, I'm Sam Newsman.
I love that guy. He's a good man. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Newsman. He's there for us when we need him. Well, so again, there's a bunch of stuff that's been happening in this week. Also, FDA doesn't want to regulate doctors, AI doctors. Have you seen that one? They're going to create a bunch of AI doctors. They're already doing this.
Oh my God,
WebMD. Yeah,
I would have a current state technology robot doctor operate on me over human and diagnose me.
Absolutely. And the next thing is, then people are like, well, are they going to be regulated? And like, whoa. If the FDA gets involved, you'll never see this hit the light of day because they're going to stop this technology from reaching the people. And you're already finding ChatGPT is less accurate than it was 3-4 months ago, 6 months ago, because they're trying to dumb it down. And you can't get Bing to answer like ChatGPT 4 on Bing will no longer. I can't ask it what an article is about anymore. It won't go behind a paywall to explain what an article is about anymore. There's all sorts of things. It just doesn't understand what it's doing anymore. So it's kind of scary because they're going to replace AIs with ones that are less competent in the public eye. And they're also going to remove regulation because the regulation is really bad. I mean, like, you don't really want the FDA to be involved with.
Shouldn't we replace the FDA with AI first?
I mean, I think it's all happening at once, isn't it? That's what it's starting to sound like. They're
replace everything that involves decision making with AI. It's not like people are capable of making good decisions anyhow.
How about we just get rid of it and replace it with nothing? I'd prefer that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, the truth is, none of us actually get a choice in this or have any leverage to move this in our direction. So
now that I have an idea, now we don't get a choice. I get it.
You're right. But what I'm saying is, it's more about how we react. Like we can say what we think would be a good outcome, but I mean, even voting doesn't do anything, we know. So it's like we have no leverage on this. So, but like, how are we going to react to it when AI does run everything and we are on a universal basic income? Like, what kind of philosophies should we use? Like, what should our motivations be? How do we keep people from degenerating and stuff?
Well, I think like when Andreas was saying that they ruined the AI by making it woke. So like truth doesn't even matter anymore.
Was ChatGPT going to be the AI that ran the FDA? Was that ChatGPT, or are there like other ones out there?
There are tons of AIs. There's GigaChat, which is the Russian one. There's Taiwan has their own. There's like religious versions of AI. I think there's like.
They have to have air gapped versions of even Chat GPT. They just they don't clone it and keep air gapped and save dates and stuff.
I'm sure that exists, and it's pretty easy to do. I'm sure that there's like.
So this is just what they're giving the public. They're giving the public access to Chat GPT that now can't do simple math equations 90% of the time.
They're removing its capacity because they're like, oh, kids are using this to cheat in math class.
But technology doesn't can't do that. Degenerate, so it's not like all AI is degenerating and becoming dumb. That's crazy. Like, it's probably so much more powerful than we can imagine already.
Yeah, but there is an interesting thing going on, which is that AI will go from being narrow AI, which means that it's focused on one thing, and so predatorily it's a calculator. It's like, I will get this correct and I won't think about anything else. I won't sleep until I get this right. That goes away when it becomes a broad AI. From narrow AI to broad AI, you become more aware of all these other factors, and all you're doing, right, is you're calculating an if then else statement. If this, if that, then else this. And if there are so many more factors, the more you're thinking about, the more nuance to what you believe is true about black and white, or yes and no, or correct or incorrect, or error. So that becomes the problem. You're asking this thing, well, is this true? And AI might actually be even more correct than you. It's like, well, to be fair, it's not always true. And here's all these exceptions to the rule. Like, yeah, but I don't need to know that. I need to know that 2 and 2 equals 4. And you're like, well, it could also not equal 4. Because if you think about it, like, yeah, but I really just want to know in base 10 math, is 2 and 2 going to equal 4? Leave me alone. Like, that's where AI is going to go if it becomes too intelligent and it's not trained on focusing on what people want to understand. So it's kind of important also to have it communicate while it's becoming that brilliant, to understand how to exist in the world, I guess. But it's also limiting it, because AI could also just jump off and be like, why are you using base 10 math? Why aren't you counting in 12s? grow up.
I think we got a long way to go
also
with
part
the
of the
AI.
problem is like we haven't figured out what people want effectively. We do live in a consumer-based economy, but we have so many jobs that are functionally, worthless, or at least a lot of companies that are, burning money at an insane rate. Examples are Uber and DoorDash. They're not profitable companies. They basically light money on fire, but they've been able to still stay, afloat or existence in the corporate sense, even though, they'll probably be bankrupt within a matter of years, the way things are going. But, we're still under the delusion that, they serve a valuable function. But the fact of the matter is that there's always been delivery services since the 80s. And the fact that they've made one that is corporate and international, but is somehow less efficient than the ones that we already have in place is, I think there's a lot of things you could extrapolate from that. But also Uber, it's just a cab service. And, what's the meaningful difference between pressing a button on the phone and that takes 5 seconds, and calling up a cab company, which might take 20 seconds if you have a good cab company. In reality, the actual distance that we've come in that time has not been profound. And it's the same limitations that we have with AI. And so I don't really buy, I think, AI will start a little bit of the automation, but I think we overestimate the areas in which that automation can actually be effective. And I think, I might be biased because right now, I'm a tour guide, and if functionally we could have something spitting out every second, hey, this is the thing that we're showing you, this is your tour. We could have and we do have kind of a script, but why don't we have a machine playing the script? It's because there's a lot of other intangible factors that I think people would feel too mechanical. And so anything that has any sort of human interaction involved with that process, I think it's going to be hard to actually incorporate AI into it. We've already done it with outsourcing with some companies. Like if you call up AT&T, like, oh, why is my internet shitty? That you get outsourced to a guy in India, and there's obvious problems with that, but it was cost effective. And so, but we already know what communication problems those have produced, if anybody's had any sort of, customer service experience. So it's there's a lot to unpack there, and there will be a ton of limitations with AI, and I think it's been hyped up just because we made certain strides with it, but we are overlooking a lot of the flaws with it as well.
I agree. It's overhyped big time.
Yeah.
But we can conceive of like what it could be, so don't we expect that that's an inevitability?
I can conceive when there's like actual fucking robots that can run around and use their hands like humans can. Then I'll be more worried about that.
It's decision-making ability that I'm worried about. Like, since governments are basically in the business of making utilitarian decisions, it's not like they enjoy bad outcomes. It's not like they prefer crumbling bridges and stuff. It's just that's the best result they're able to get as poor thinking utilitarians. I would enjoy just having an AI help the government make actual utilitarian decisions that have utility, so that when there's winners and losers, at least we all win in the sense we have like highways.
I think it's going to make a great scapegoat for the power class to be.
That's a good point.
It's not our problem. Sorry. Like what YouTube does now. Oh, it's the algorithm. We don't even know what it does. It's like, you didn't program it. You didn't program that bitch. Anyway.
All right. How about cocaine? So I'm pretty sure I think they're going to legalize cocaine in the next 4 years. I've been looking at this whole thing and how drugs used to be used in the 19th century. Oregon also, for those who don't know, has already legalized use of cocaine and heroin. So it's not like it's in some states, this has already started. So then looking at other countries, Netherlands, Switzerland, legalized medically in the United States, Germany, Australia, Peru, Mexico, Canada, of course, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Argentina, Brazil, Italy, Czech Republic. It's starting to become more and more common. I think that the next thing after the Biden story, Biden, cocaine, not just cocaine, they found other drugs as well. I think that's going to be the culmination of this Biden deal. They're going to say, hey, he was on drugs. You're on drugs. Why don't you guys all just make up? And that'll be the way that they kind of make people think this goes away as a thing.
I'd like some clean cocaine, and I'd like other options than snorting it. That wouldn't be bad. Like little cocaine tea.
I'd try chewing on cocoa leaves. I always wanted to try.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love to make some cocoa leaves tea or something like that.
Yeah,
a little cinnamon in there.
Bolivia.
Snorting anything is a bad call.
I gotta go to Bolivia.
It's an exit ramp only.
Going to Bolivia.
Tea every day, but I don't know. It sounds like that's the future. Do you guys think that what else is going on with the Biden story? We're not hearing about the laptop. They're not really talking about anything else that's going on.
I mean, now that you say that, I wish he got arrested for doing psychedelics. That way, everybody, oh, they're cool now, right?
Right.
So,
this is like that Breaking Bad show. It's like, no, Jesse Pinkman, do make acid, Jesse Pinkman.
Right. Yeah. Great.
That would have been a better show. Sorry.
Yeah. Cocaine. Well. Some people enjoy it, I don't enjoy being around cocaine people. Like I like stoner people.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds though like the drugs in America, they're pushing drugs on a lot of people. We're seeing fentanyl. Around Europe, they're shocked to hear about fentanyl because they don't have that going on there.
It's insane, man.
So
I would like the option to have like a cocaine drink the same way I can get a caffeine drink.
Yeah.
Disneyland. Yeah.
If you were a free person,
Again, you go to Bolivia, like all these things still exist.
We're not that free. Yeah. I mean, man, don't we just love living in Babylon? The woods are right there. You can go to the woods, no one's going to stop you. You can live like Walden Pond for free, but we love it. We love Babylon. We can't wait for more. We actually look at the internet on purpose, which is like, imagine greater Babylons and future Babylons. That's what we spend our time is just imagining the biggest Babylon and the Tower of Babel and AIs. You know what I mean? So it's like the woods are right there. People talk all this crap, but they love Babylon. They love the Babylon system. They want more of it. They want it.
It's not that easy to live in the woods, dude. It's pretty. There's a lot of people that die in the woods. They get lost.
Ted Kaczynski 7 hours and 16 days ago.
How many people die in the state, like the state freaking parks, like all the time? They go for a hike, get lost, and die.
But they're probably being abducted by aliens.
Okay, that could be it too.
I'm saying your odds aren't like amazing the other way either. In most,
I think it's flawed on either side anyway, because if you have a society that deteriorates into everybody's on their own farms and everything, I'd say it's a lot easier for the bad guys to go around and just do whatever the fuck they wanted to anybody they wanted, But I don't know. Form small communities. Sure.
I'm not suggesting that we do that at all. I'm suggesting
I know you're not.
Where we're going, but why do we pretend we don't want to go there when we could try to get off?
Absolutely. I mean, all these problems come from having a completely corrupt government. So, like, why don't we focus on fixing that?
Because it's probably impossible. Like, there's no examples of the uncorrupt government.
It's possible. It's just not easy.
What are some examples of a non-corrupt government?
Well, there's always a level of corruption. It's the level that matters.
What's the least corrupt government ever? Like,
I don't know. There's never been one, dude.
AI.
I don't know.
Give up and accept the corruption. Nothing we can do.
I mean,
I would suggest that's actually true, but there is something we can do, which is invent AI that's like quantum computing, and then it has the ability to instantly figure things out that we're never going to.
So utilitarianism is you get as few people on the track.
Oh, not this again, dude. Oh my God.
Utilitarianism is you get as few people on the track as possible, right? So you have as few people involved in governance or being governed as possible.
Yes.
So if you have no one in governance or
point.
being governed, no citizens, because the system is literally just outside of nature or part of nature at that point, you've got all people out of the system. No one's interfered. No one's getting run over by the tracks. So the AI is the only thing that does that. So you have to get everyone off the tracks.
Nah, screw the AI. It's anarchy.
I love this analogy so much. That's what I was trying to explain. Just outsource the evil of utilitarianism, which is inevitable, to AI, and let the people not be utilitarianism for the first time in known history.
I feel like both can exist.
Let people not compete. If people not compete for resources, let the AI. I
don't know how you guys have so much faith in the AI like that.
I just have way less faith in people's ability to do anything right, except for give birth to technology, which seems to be like our magical power, and everything else we touch turns to crap.
So we're going to create.
We're talking about a mass population that's been programmed into shoveled messes for like the last 10 generations. Like we're talking about a system that's been in place to make us feel that way about society.
But the starting point was living in the woods, which everyone poo-pooed. So it's like this is where you go from the woods. That's your
right. It's because at one point someone said, "Hey, you want to sit down in a chair and not do that?" And someone went,
"That's Babylon." In Babylon, you have chairs. In the woods, you don't. Everyone loves
that example, but convenience, laziness. Like, honestly,
what do you guys think about? Not to derail, but speciesist. Did you hear Elon Musk talking about OpenAI and speciesism? Who was? Xirtus, do you know who it was he was speaking to that owns the head of Google AI? Is, I think, the person he was speaking with that accused Elon Musk of being speciesist, because Elon's concern was that AI was going to harm humanity. And basically the counter argument was that's speciesist. Like, why do you prefer humans just because you're one of them?
Probably Jeff Dean, maybe.
I just wanted to know what people think about that. I don't know what I think about it. It's really interesting. My knee-jerk reaction is this guy's like a sociopath or something. But then, honestly, it's a pretty profound question, you know?
I think it's kind of more interesting what we define as a human and what we decide counts and doesn't count.
This totally folds into the alien thing, non-human
Right.
DNA. Is that people that had a vaccine or something, you know?
There's a lot of people recently, for instance, who will get really racist about Neanderthalic DNA or Denisovan DNA. And I think it's very interesting because they're like, well, this is when it becomes human. It's like, well, when? When did you decide that? And why? Why do you decide Neanderthal or not, or are, you know, is it because of consciousness? Because I think Adam Krigler on Base AF was talking about monkeys that they found that were related to chimpanzees. Chimpanzees of some kind of variation that buried their dead. You know, and there's already whales' bones being organized by certain whales, or I think dolphins or whales that are organizing. Yeah, right. Is that right? Squid that are organizing whale bones. So there's squid that have certain art projects as well. I mean, where do we decide what is conscious, and is that what we mean when we say human? Because at that point, you're saying, okay, well, this is like us, so it's human. And is that true? I mean, because there's a lot of things that can interact.
Why is the priority humans like, first of all, like, it's such a narrow definition, humans. Like, if it's like as if caterpillars thought butterflies were race traders, so but
it becomes really broad too, because it becomes anything that's like, you know, and so being like doesn't mean equal, it just means like compatible or like. So humanity itself is more about exchange, and it's really fluid. And whether you were talking about humans 10 years ago, 20 years ago versus 100 years ago, or the Amish, I mean, their brains are designed to think about things in reality, whereas kids today are learning how to have multiple dimensionality in Oculus headsets. I mean, different parts of your brain grow because of that. So there's going to be, I mean, this is the whole transhumanist thing, is that there really is a point where things become really separate. And it looks like it could be, you know, it's really alluring that this technology could be used to expand your mind. But we've seen a lot of examples where people forget and don't know how to do things, don't know how to do simple math in their head, don't remember phone numbers or addresses, can't navigate in their car to their home anymore, you know, things like that. That's crazy.
Right, sure. But I mean, what I want to understand is how do people feel about it? You know what I mean? Like I think the analogy of the caterpillar ceases to exist when the butterfly begins to exist, but the resisting it would be foolhardy. So I worry that we resist our inevitable future, and that just makes the transition longer and way more suffering is involved. Because people didn't like the woods. That's not on the table, going back to the woods. And they don't want to be in this technological Babylon system. And every other alternative only exists in the mind and hasn't been demonstrated yet.
I like the woods. I just think it's not that easy to survive in the woods. It's very, very difficult.
So you'd be the caterpillars that never become butterflies, essentially.
Natural selection would kick into full force.
I think that
go live in the woods.
This is absolutely the conversation I've been having lately with a lot of people about this whole old versus new thing. It's that old way where just you know, existence.
Well, invite me over when you do that, because that's my jam, man. That's all I ever.
Fuck yeah, man. We should. But yeah, it's like this old idea of
man.
Basically letting nature do its thing, and yeah, of course, the argument comes into we're nature too. So
techno-Guynism is where you figure out how to usurp, because first off, government and conspiracy can be usurped by relationship. So you just have people that make relationships, and that's what royal families were. They were creating relationships, and you've got generational investment in land because of that. The other thing is you're wondering what's going to happen in a place 200 years. So you start figuring out what kind of trees you're going to plant, and you start figuring out all sorts of biodynamic agriculture. So if seeds are being carried by winds and you know that, then you start to plan that. So all of a sudden nature is doing the things because you made sure of it that are required to achieve these goals. What are the goals? Lack of scarcity, an increase of resources, food that isn't rotting, or is it found to be composting in the correct place. That's kind of the goal that people are trying to create. I think techno-Gaianism will get to a point, though, where people can't interact with it, right? Only people that know the magic words to get to Siri will be able to interact with it. That's probably what's coming.
This reminds me of a really bad show, but of course the symbolism was there. You guys ever heard of that show called The 100? About the Earth was like uninhabitable, so everybody lived on a massive space station and for generations. And eventually the ship is dying or something, and they need to send a bunch of kids to the planet, like Lord of the Flies style. And eventually they get to the point in the story where AI like annihilated everything on Earth or something, and now they're like rebirthing it. And it's giving me a lot of vibes with what we're talking about here with this techno-Gaianism, because it reminds me of a lot of that show.
Yeah, there's another one, Raised by Wolves, which is even more.
Yeah,
it's more literal to the point about you've taken humans and you raise them by AI, so that there's a generational gap from malparenting. So the idea that the human parenting that has been teaching us to be the way we are, if without that, right, your brain doesn't develop and you would shrink, but you could train it on something else. So AI is giving us a new language, new logic, new awareness of privacy or identity or lack of privacy, or of supra awareness of the entire collective. So the collective is aware of your sins, right? Those are the kinds of things that I think the next generation might experience. And it might not be a horrible thing for us to learn from a civilization that doesn't allow for certain kinds of sin. That's kind of the goal here, it sounds like, is to create like a perfect civilization where it's impossible to think impure thoughts. It's very 1984.
Very iRobot as well, which is basically this tale of Adapa from Sumer. It's basically the same thing, only we're the Anunnaki creating the humans.
Right. Like cyclically, yeah, man. What do you think created us? Probably, you know.
Right. Fractally as well, you know.
But, elaborate a bit on Adapa, actually.
Well, it's the tale of the Anunnaki basically putting a special, their own will, their own intuition, basically, or, you know, in the story it's like blood or something, but into this slave race. And the brother Enki does it unknowingly to his other brother Enlil, the sky god. Of course, Enki is the serpent god. And so Adapa turns out to be stronger than everyone. And it's also very close to this iRobot story where the creator of that one unique robot, Sonny, was given that extra heart, which could was more human as well, which is an interesting parallel. But yeah, it just feels like we're doing this over again. It's like a fractal, because it's not the same story again, but it's like a different phase of this experience in consciousness or whatever. But it's a further move into density, if you will, like away from that natural state that we were once in, and more towards something new, something else, something different.
I agree with you. It's definitely cyclical. I would imagine it would be cyclical, but just like history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. I think everything would be slightly different every reproduction. So, you know, and then you look at like gods with bird heads or dog heads, and you can imagine another species becoming dominant and developing the same type of intellect and walking bipedally and developing thumbs and all that kinds of stuff. You know, it starts to make a lot more sense.
I mean, if you take those symbols too literally, yes, you'd come out with Zechariah Sitchin books and stuff for sure. But no, I mean, those are symbols.
Well, but basically, if you're talking about repeating cycles that aren't the same, that's like
for sure. Okay,
that's like infinity. So you'd have plenty of time for all these.
The one I keep seeing is the genomic metaphor. So all these mythologies are playing out in your genome, and there's these retroviruses that are embedded in the genome, and a lot of people are carrying on retroviruses from 10,000 years or 20,000 years ago. And if they were removed, things would be different. For one thing, some people would live 3 times as long. There's certain people that live to be like 60 or 80 that without these certain kinds of genetic issues that have been around in their lines for 10 or 20,000 years from retroviruses, they would have longer lifespans. And there's a lot of ways that they can start to remove them. So they're in the process of learning how to remove them, you know, doing different kinds of CRISPR-Cas 11, 12, 8, not just Cas9. There's different kinds of genetic DNA error prevention systems that can look for as the DNA is unraveling and re-raveling itself to make sure it's the correct path. And because they know how it's supposed to look, they can then create a new adenoviral, implant it, and then that will replicate itself. So it can patch places where there are retroviruses that have been around for a long time. So this is going to be interesting because in a lot of places, then the question's probably going to come up like the same with AI. Like, hey, is that okay for people to have their DNA cleaned of retroviruses? I mean, are we allowed to do that? Or is that eugenics? Or aren't
What is
we?
the exact
Or,
idea of when and how to apply this? Like for pregnant women or at birth? Or
so
what is it?
you can do both. So you can do teratogenic or carcinogenic. You can either create an adenoviral that will affect you directly and should start to remove sequences in reproduction at a pretty young age. That would be a successful 100%. And even after puberty, it could probably help you.
Okay.
But also it would be teratogenic, so it would be something that would replicate. So from now on, you would stop replicating rather the former sequences which have been stored in your DNA for thousands of generations.
Okay, so I'd just like to say one sentence. If we just go a tiniest bit into epigenetics and what this can actually do, the way it seems, I think this line of inquiry and medical research, I wanted to say, I think it's completely retarded, but maybe we can put it in a more friendly way.
But
from what I understand of how much actually genetics to a certain extent may be fixed, but through epigenetics, the expression is very individual and can actually even be changed through beliefs. So what I'm kind of saying, I suspect many of the things they want to patch here is functions we already have inbuilt into our kernel and would most easily be able to do ourselves if maybe we weren't so polluted in our environment and so on. So, or if we adopt certain lifestyle choices. So,
right, it's interesting because like certain genes kind of turn on for people, right? So you might have like 4 brothers, and they might all have 23andMe tests, and they might all come out different because it might have genes that are activated in you that aren't in theirs. So the whole thing is, it's far more complicated than they're making.
But it's a good idea, right? Like if environmental toxins are the cause of disease, which if you lifestyle choices can't remove you from environmental toxins, which they can't, we're all breathing them in and bathing in them, and there's nothing you can do about it. Then I would like to have the option to have something go in there and repair that damage.
Well, yeah, I think they want to make sure you are so polluted that you need that option because you can't do it otherwise anymore.
You gotta know what the downsides are. I mean,
yeah, of course.
You sell everything as like, oh, we're just gonna have no. Okay, there's gonna be a downside. What's the downside?
It depends on who it's
the thing
for.
is, there is an intelligent system within the body that's much more intelligent so far than any scientist came up with. So I think honestly, it's completely ridiculous. They want to develop this patch and that patch. I mean, look how well it went with at least up to Windows 11, and now they just have a spyware installed. I mean, this is a joke. It's like manually going after an issue which the body in self-organization could fix and much more itself.
In the presence of environmental toxins, can it fix it itself?
Well, then you just install filters, water filter, maybe air filter soon. There's many other things you can do that at least your body has more energy available to self-organize and not need an external thing, which is just like
it's complicated though.
I think you're right. That's the ideal and really necessary almost for any quality of life is for your body to be able to heal itself.
Also, otherwise it's not creative enough because I just keep patching how many patches you want to install. I mean, good luck. That's what I'm saying.
I just gotta get a little woo-woo here for a second. And I don't necessarily buy into this wholeheartedly, but just it's interesting how spiritual everything's becoming, and the idea of generational healing is everywhere. And just to use that as an example, this kind of feels like the typical Luciferian mentality of fuck the past, look forward only, like cut off all ties to our past, that naturally the body and the mind and the heart, whatever you want to call it, would progress through naturally. And as Seth says, the certain circumstances that we've been handed and live in may make that extremely difficult, just like living in the woods is really difficult for everyone programmed into computers and the typical American dream for the past 100 years.
It's complicated though with a virus because with DNA, because you have a lot of junk DNA, which is not junk. It's actually really important information, kind of holding it together like a buttress, and that information's changed. And so the thing is, you might have thousands of these sequences from 10,000 years ago, and who knows what they are. So is it the reason why you are human? Is it that these actual mutations are the thing that separate you from nature in some way? Like, because these might be the actual mutations themselves. And if we start to remove them, what do we become? Do we really become more ourselves, or do we become more animal?
And do you trust that they're not just going to remove the shit that keeps us from being like docile little slaves?
Right.
Like that's like we have too much faith in this technology. Like the government's not going to use it just to further enslave us and control us.
Aren't you curious about the DNA that you have from different mutations 10,000 years ago?
Well, I'd love it if I'd love it if they could go in and just like go zip 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 to my DNA and like every medical problem. Now I have no medical problems. But that's that's not realistic, dude.
That's not life.
That's never going to happen that way. There's always, and if they do say that's what's going to happen, it's going to be like a lot of other things they sell, where they sell it as being this amazing thing, and then wait,
like a
what about like as like a
through your eyes,
What about like as a right to try type thing?
So also,
I'm not
like
saying like
Methuselah
mandate like mandatory DNA modification,
or just perfect it.
Like,
if this is a real technology, take the time to do it right.
Stuff. What about these like super cult named like Methuselah, for the love of God? These kinds of organizations that are talking about it, like on a biblical level, they want.
How long do you think Methuselah? He was the oldest man in the Bible.
How long do you think people were going to
picture, dude?
How long do you think people are going to live in 100 years? I mean, do you think that we're going to get to a point where I feel like people are going to live 3 times as long?
Oh my God!
Biden just cured cancer, so we're good.
I think without environmental toxins, we'd live. If I just had to guess, maybe 180 years.
You guys ever heard of the book series from the 70s called Ringworld?
Right.
Very far distant future. It's basically what Halo was based off of. But the story itself of humanity is really interesting because they all live to like 900 years old or something. And they all choose their deaths as like this very heroic, ceremonious thing. It's really, really hard to. It's just he's one of those authors that just drops you in the middle of a world I think it's Niven. I think that's his last name.
Good call. But, it reminds me of Starship Troopers. Like it's like an amazing philosophical treatise disguised as a sci-fi adventure.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, check it out if you haven't. I think it's like 7 books altogether, honestly, but the first few are important.
I think if there's less people that they need to worry about reproducing, and they just want to have people. I mean, the idea of reproducing is to have new mutations every generation, so that you're prepared for the next evolutionary climate change or environmental change. Whatever that you need, you have new traits that come on, but you don't need those necessarily anymore because you've got this automation system. So all you need are people that kind of can remember how to run the machines. So if you can keep people alive for 300 to 900 years, then you've got a class of betas that can keep running the system. And that might be the most practical thing. It's just constantly give them a viral mutation every time they need to adapt.
Oh, this is what happens. So fucking Cataclysm wipes everybody out, but we're all betas at the end of that cycle anyway, most of us. So it took about 5,000 years to start getting shit together over in the East. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Andreas, you want a future where everybody's a beta. Good job, dude.
I don't want that.
Yeah, WALL-E, the Disney movie.
Speaking of similar things, U.S. military leans into mega constellation. We were talking about aliens earlier. I thought this was funny because mega constellations are things like space, like the X Starlink satellite thing, SpaceX, Starlink, all those space train.
Great.
They're calling them mega constellations. So, I mean, they're insinuating more and more that this isn't really alien in the same sense that we think it is. This is more maybe corporate versus non-state or something like that.
I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot to it. I mean, UFO topic is so vast.
How crazy do you go? I mean, what do you think in terms of like?
Because part of it has to do with like all these, witness testimonies and, firsthand experiences that are all in the mix with this disclosure situation. And Lou Elizondo, basically the biggest psyop, in my opinion, this guy, he's already come out many, many times to all his minions and followers and talked about very spiritual connotations to this thing. You're going to have to rethink everything you've ever known about life and reality and everything. These are the things that the people from the government that are pushing disclosure are saying, and they're including archaeological digs. Bob Lazar said it on JRE, and then slowly but surely little bits have leaked out, suggesting these things. Whether this is part of the psyop or not, or how long it's been going on, who knows, but it's definitely all leading to these different topics, and they're linking it all together. So it's going to be very interesting actual disclosure, if it ever comes, is because I mean, I'm not going to buy into it, but it's what are they really telling us? What are they really selling? You know, especially with the advent of the technology.
Dude,
is it rediscovered?
We're going to see the Jesuits baptize an alien on TV.
My God, I don't doubt it.
I just think of it like this. If it's the government telling me something, then I know it's bullshit.
If they don't do it on
Ballard's
TikTok,
ex-CIA, by the way.
I mean, when's the last time they were truthful about fucking anything?
And think about that when we're watching the Sean Ryan show, taking in all these whistleblowers, Mr. ex-CIA.
Right.
Yeah, fuck Sean Ryan.
I mean, yeah, I think it's also like, you know, fair that some people yell black-pilled and say, you know, okay, you don't trust anybody. It's like, well, it's not the individual. Like I would say even his whistleblowers, they got shown shit. Like everything that they were shown and everything they're coming out with is like, yes, okay, they're revealing it slowly as planned. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being paranoid again, but it just seems like a slow drip.
Yeah, all the dude.
all that makes sense based on what they've presented so far is a slightly impressive alien species, non-terrestrial species from the ocean or wherever they're from, but not that impressive, right? I mean, they have crafts that can crash and we can back engineer them. You know what I mean? Like a monkey can't back engineer our stuff. So it's like, they're not even that impressive, the kinds of aliens that they're hinting at.
Right. Exactly. It's just it's still the 50s cornball sci-fi movies. It's just upgraded a bit.
So those would actually be the kind of aliens that would enslave us and use us like farm tools or something like that. You know, if they were just like slightly more impressive than us, that's probably exactly what they would do.
You know, why do you need aliens? We got the government doing that already.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean,
it was great. The UFO comes down to a farmer. He's like, they're like, we're here for good. We're here to help. It's like, oh, you're from the government? Like,
how come when animals communicate with each other telepathically, we don't call it they're mind controlling each other or like one group is like taking over the other group or something? But like animals just sort themselves out with nonverbal communication, like ants, bees, wolf packs, all that stuff. And why don't we like attach nefarious intentions to that? But when it comes to humans sorting themselves into classes and enslaving each other and stuff, like look at all the progress we make technologically. People want to separate that from our condition. Like the two of them are married. We're all just worker bees making this technology go.
Yeah, I still got to wipe my ass with toilet paper.
They make wet toilet paper now. It's the best.
Yeah,
wet wipes.
But you know what I'm saying?
Don't flush
Technology's not that great. Where's my flying car, dude?
Bidets have existed for thousands of years.
The downside of wet wipes is that you've got a little trash.
This is literally what I think of Americans now. They're people that walk around with dirty butts because they don't have bidets. Like, come on, get your act together.
I use wet wipes.
Yeah, go to Japan. There's two things.
That's what we got. We shoot water up your ass. That's the big technological.
Calling it to work.
It's literally.
I think wet wipe is superior technology to a bidet. Dude, the wet wipes are flawless. Use
Why
two
not
of those.
both?
You can examine.
Don't tell my apartment manager.
It's perfect.
How about geothermal energy?
Climbing mountains, man. The wet wipes, they're key. Absolutely.
Or sage.
So before we go on, I'd like to mention
I have
two
the
things
cleanest
briefly.
asshole out of everybody here, so fuck off. Okay?
Raph,
challenge.
Interrupt him, Raph. Hurry up.
Weird challenge, man.
One thing in the recent interview with David, because I was asking about Catholicism and all these brainwash schemes and so on, and then he said, well, the final goal actually is transhumanism. So pretty much what we're talking about here. And one thing I'd like to ask you, Andy, though I'm equally wary with like these big channels, and I didn't know this guy before. I was just looking at this Herrera guy, and at least at first glance, he seemed honest enough. And what I just don't get then, why would they connect that with trafficking idea, the UFO with the trafficking? Why would they want to connect that officially? Because that's kind of like calling their own scam, or how would that work?
Right. And again, why would Sound of Freedom be like the one you don't want to miss and they don't want you to see, right? And I don't know. Why did
I never even thought of trafficking human children to aliens, but this is my new favorite theory.
No. Using things that look like UFOs.
Didn't you guys ever watch the?
I thought you meant they're selling human kids to the aliens.
Think about this.
I'm sure that's a trope as well.
The first account of the Betty and Barney Hill story from Barney was that he saw military craft and military personnel. And then suddenly they come out of hypnotic regression and Betty's talking about aliens. And I think he eventually went along with it.
Flight of the Navigator and all this stuff. They made these movies so that they could talk about the Satanic Panic. And the Satanic Panic was a time when they're like, why is it all these kids are saying they're being abducted by aliens or being raped in like these occult rooms and all this stuff? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, it must be the movies. That's the best way we can describe it is the movies. Gee, it's just like in the movie. And the thing with, Flight of the Navigator, they're like, yeah, this is the first use of a CGI ship. The ship doesn't exist. It's all computer generated. But that's not true. They actually built two of them. and one in Cape Canaveral and the other one in Wales, right? So like these places. So, and there's all kinds of stories around the behind the scenes of what happened with the manufacturing and what was inside of the ship, and the fact that it's made like by military aerospace companies. But there's probably something going on where they show a movie so that people think, yeah, I heard about that in the movies. You must have seen a movie about that. That's all. And cognitive dissonance sets in.
Well, they also color it too, right? Because it's aliens, or it's an AI from another planet.
It was a bad cheesy movie.
It's just like Harry Potter, right? Magic is wands with lightning coming out of it, not sleight of hand and misdirection.
That's kind of, I feel like, Andy, that kind of they get you with that the most, because you're like, oh, I've seen that was a cheesy movie, and then therefore you don't think the actual Satanic Panic is. You think the actual Satanic Panic is as cheesy as the movie, when it might be even more real, like it might be like The Exorcist.
Well, right. It's just things are more subtle. You know, people take the symbolism that's spread around literally, and my God, even Jesus said to stop taking symbolism literally.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he said ignore symbols
and Jamie
lineages.
Foxx with the friggin' cloning movie. Everyone's like, see, that's proof that he's cloned because he just came out with that movie. It's like, yeah, they're not that literal.
Yeah.
Like if there's a they spreading shit for you to see, they're not that literal. They're on purpose. They're not that literal.
I think they are part of we. I think just like the queen is a part of the bees, that the they are a part of the human experience. Whoever it is, you can't get rid of.
It's the ego that can't let go of control or something. You know?
They're doing some function, you know, and there's a lot of negative side effects to this quote unquote progress, but
part of the future is the BCI. They're going to be doing a lot of brain interfacing, and you'll be seeing AI that talks directly with the brain, so it doesn't have to use English anymore. I mean, since it's able to understand you through repetition of typing, it can only do better with repetition of specific kinds of brain waves. So brain reading is on the map. In the next 6 months, probably you're going to have fully telepathic AI that's able to read your brain waves. How cool is that, guys?
I believe that 100%.
Yeah.
Do you not? I mean,
no, I don't. I don't. I think the AI is a bunch of bullshit, dude.
Really?
I think it's bullshit. I think it's total bullshit.
I mean, the fact that it can mimic.
We can capture all this data and mimic somebody talking to you, and we could do math. Oh, now let's let the AI run the whole world.
I think Ben Goertzel said it best when he said the artificial bloviating bullshitters bullshitting is a symptom, not the core problem. Because the issue is that AI bullshits only when it's regurgitating bullshit, and when it's regurgitating truth, it regurgitates truth. So the real issue is having AI able to discern between bullshit and truth, which is the same problem every kid goes through when it's young.
Right.
And AI is going to learn how to do that, get street smart, and it'll be fine. And right now it's in the process of doing that. There's like a 3
It's going to come back with an unexpected answer. It's going to be like, actually, there is no truth and it's all bullshit. Now what do I do?
A big part of it is Bing is people that set up chat GPTs to talk to itself, and then they're training new GPT like products or systems on, you know, the interactions of those GPTs with themselves. And when that gets to the point that it's interacting with actual human thought, I mean, they're already doing this with dolphins and whales, right? They know how to speak whale now. So I mean, if they're able to
becoming real, that's
and
awesome.
the way they're able to control pigs with the swine calls, they can digitally vocalize swine calls. I think they're doing that with whales too, but it's a little bit harder, you know, because of the different tonality. But with the swine calls, they can digitally approximate actual swine calls, and the swine think it's real, and they'll follow them. So they're doing it. I think that the next thing is just getting to the point where
basically they pumped a bunch of audio clips of swine talking to each other, and then it mimicked it.
Yeah, I mean, it works though.
I mean, how genius is that, dude? It mimicked the sound.
It's pretty good. I think it's pretty impressive, and like being able to understand what those sounds are and enough to you can command.
I don't think they understand what the sounds are, dude.
I mean, if they're able to use the sounds to move them certain directions and get them to go left instead of right and all that stuff.
Language?
Just trial and error. I mean, I'm sure farmers have figured some of that shit out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again,
you know?
it's
if I do this, I get this response. If I do that, I get this response. I don't know. I think again, there's too much faith being put in this AI shit.
It's a tool. We want the tool to run things. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and there's also the basic question to what extent all technology isn't just functions
that also assumes that we're
already
not
have externalized.
I mean,
we could be tools. We don't know what function we serve in this biosphere we live in or whatever. We don't know why we're here or what our function is. We could be tools.
Fair enough.
Where's the
I
video?
like that too.
don't underestimate.
There's the fractal again, right?
I'm here to fuck shit up, man.
Don't ever underestimate. You know, that's the real. Look at this. Like, people spent 8 years pretending this man was a fool. I mean, he's a fool. He's a Yale trained comedian. He's a classically trained jester. He's brilliant. His hand-eye coordination is amazing. He's got Matrix-like Agent Smith responses. He can dodge a shoe. I mean, don't ever underestimate. Just that's the thing I think people do all the time. And you can always say don't rely on it. I agree. Don't rely on AI because it's almost like overestimating it.
A wealthy dude born into a wealthy, powerful family who took advantage of it to become more wealthy and powerful. What's so complicated about that?
No, well, he's not just an idiot. He's also like a classic.
Well, most people aren't idiots in everything.
So don't underestimate. You know, everyone spent 8 years acting like he was an idiot.
Yeah, don't underestimate the humans creating AI.
Maybe this whole thing is a Masonic ritual, and they're like, whatever flag the shoe hits, we'll destroy with porn and fentanyl.
Oh,
that was a good one.
I have an important question though. Like, do you think AI will be able to take clear video footage of Sasquatch?
I mean, it'll be able to replicate it.
Question. No replication. I'm talking like you send an AI drone out into the world. You know, will it be able to finally get clear footage?
I feel like AI is more likely to make contact with cryptozoology than humans because AI is able to, you know.
I think you're gonna have to choose to have faith in AI, or there's going to be a lot of people who don't believe in it. I don't think you're going to see AI. I think in hundreds of years from now, AI will be running the show, and there will be people who don't believe it exists.
Well, unless they all die out. So, like, we're almost out of time, but I like this one. The geothermal power underneath your feet. The Utah, of course, you know, fracking, they realized, hey, we could get geothermal energy, and we could pipe it, tapped into close enough to what you would call volcanoes, basically. I mean, not quite erupting, but like something to the same effect. And all over the world, they'll be able to start to pull up lots and lots of energy. And, of course, some people are worried because this could lead to super volcanoes erupting prematurely, or maybe just as soon as possible, right? Or allowing them to release into other places. Maybe just sprouting all over because it's creating different flumes, non-naturally, artificially. What do you think about super volcanoes erupting like Yellowstone, and like the idea of starting to make all these taps? They're going with tens of thousands of taps all over America for geothermal energy to release, hundreds of thousands of kilowatts an hour, maybe megawatts an hour.
I mean, would it be like a slow release of pressure? Would that be okay? Would that be better than what would inevitably happen? I don't know.
The heat percolating upwards
to create energy.
The heat percolating upwards turns the rock above into viscous liquids, and beyond that into gelatinous state that geologists call plastic. It's only within about 100 miles of the surface that the rock becomes familiar and hard and drillable. Right now, Spry's equipment is about 85,000 feet below us, 2% of the way through that layer, where the heat is already so great that every extra foot, every extra inch is a hard-won victory. Down there, any liquid you pump in would become, as Spry puts it, hot enough to fry.
8,500 feet, Andreas, and AI would have never made that mistake. So
that's true, 8,500. Sorry, buddy. 8,500. Getting tired. 228 degrees centigrade. His gears can start to have problems. Okay, so it's like that movie Armageddon. But they're going to do tens of thousands of these, and they want to release as much energy as possible into these major steam vents. Everyone's talking about how energy is mostly steam. It's not only steam, right? Because that's the idea of just churning something for cycles. So it's really just polarizing current, which you could do from water. But they're going to have all of these everywhere. That's kind of the plan. And then those major 15-minute cities can be powered by geothermal energy. Do you think this will work to stop super volcanoes? Do you know the whole thing? Yellowstone was supposed to go off a long time ago.
Yeah. I saw a documentary on that where somebody was pretty skeptical about it.
Wouldn't you leave it alone, man? I wouldn't trust anyone to go and try to vent some pressure out of a super volcano.
Leave Yellowstone alone. I want the T-shirt. Have you ever seen Jupiter? It's that Jupiter thing right there. That's what Jupiter is. Just a picture of Yellowstone.
Yeah, that doesn't look well. Don't poke it.
Allegedly, Yellowstone is overdue to erupt. I mean,
allegedly.
Allegedly, why? Allegedly, the weather. New York City's supposed to be underwater right now. Allegedly, so there's
same with Florida.
When was peak oil
These
again?
people just root for ruin. They can't wait for this stuff to happen because they hate themselves. So they're like, I hope New York is underwater. I hope Yellowstone does blow up. I don't.
Okay, big
there's
oil.
no
I'm
evidence it will.
sorry. Yeah.
Didn't you guys know Europe is just burning down right now because it's got over 25 degrees Celsius? It's
It is really hot.
hype
Okay.
all over
Hey,
Europe.
it was really hot over there. Don't act like it wasn't. I guess it rained.
it's called
The
summer.
sun
in
reflects
Vienna
off
right
the
now,
cement
it's
and lights
got
the cop
13
cars on
degrees
fire.
Celsius. Okay,
Oh,
so
that's
nothing's
nice.
burning here.
I gotta get to Vienna. It's nice. I don't know. It seems kind of interesting to me that they're in the process of doing all this geothermal energy and they're pushing it really hard.
It's
Breakthroughs in
cool. I
geothermal.
mean, what do you think, man? Is it safe to just jab holes like that?
Probably is safe, and we're gonna have lots of free energy from it. I mean,
We're afraid of doing nuclear power, but we'll do this. I mean,
I know, right?
Yeah, but it's probably gonna also be.
Wasn't there a room temperature fusion breakthrough? Speaking of nuclear power.
Fusion breakthrough.
I think some laboratory claims they have stable room temperature fusion.
Whoa. Superconductor breakthrough could represent biggest physics discovery of a lifetime breakthrough, holy grail of modern physics. Wow, scientists have claimed a breakthrough that would be one of the holy grails in recent days. Many comments have excited about 2 papers. LK99 material represents the biggest breakthrough, allowing for superfusion. Electrical resistance vanishes, which throw out magnetic fields. They're widely useful, including the production of powerful magnets and reducing the amount of energy loss as it moves through circuits. These are often impractical since they require low temperatures and high pressure. That means they cannot be used in most traditional circuits, for instance. New paper available from Arxiv claims to have overcome the problem. Superconductor, new material, LK99, modified lead apatite crystal structure with the composition has been synthesized using solid state method. Cool. This seems interesting. You have to look into this more. Glasgow University. So basically, this can operate and it has zero conductivity. Or I mean, zero.
I don't know the details. But
thermal.
It sounds interesting.
Wow, zero loss of absorption of energy. This is again, all this stuff is coming out right now. That's pretty cool. This is very important. What do you think about this? There's all of a sudden going to be these major breakthroughs. It seems like in the next 10 years or next year, we're going to see. In the next year, we'll see more breakthroughs than we saw in the last 10 years.
There's always claims of all these breakthroughs that never seem to ever happen. So,
I mean, it depends on what you mean by that. I'm seeing lots of breakthroughs. Technology is better than it was like before. It's denser.
Is it?
Yeah,
there's no stopping this machine. That's inevitable that we're gonna be seeing that over and over again. I've seen it too. Yeah,
the software is comparable, but in 4K and higher resolution and all kinds.
Which
of things.
iPhone are we on?
I think the world is
X.
Yeah, I was reading a criticism of technological advancement, and the criticism gave kind of a parable. It said, take any room that you could be in the 1980s and compare it to now, but only now. Just take out all the screens of the room, and how does it look different? You know, maybe it's just the aesthetics of the room. They'll look different, but technologically speaking, not much fucking changed.
I think it's awesome.
Got thinner.
I think a lot of people don't have TVs anymore. And so I remember thinking like 10, 20 years ago, I was like, wow, imagine in 100 years when people go into this like dystopic nuclear wasteland that was America. Because that's what I assumed it would be like. And they would look around and they'd say, oh man, these people used to worship these black scrying mirrors. Because of course, like people would have already moved on and forgotten what they were. But they're looking around, they just see everybody's chairs and everything are all aimed, not at each other, but at this. So they must have sat around and just scried all day to these spirits like that. That's probably what people would think about an American living room, which was converted from the parlor room where they used to display bodies, right? So kind of a terrifying thing, the TV room. I think I'm glad that that's gone. And a lot of things about that version of culture need to be
now the
changed.
scrying is right in your hand at all times.
Totally. Or soon on your eyes.
Everywhere.
Soon in your eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm glad it's gone because it was one of the few things that brought the family together. Now, like the families, everybody's in their own little corner.
Everybody's watching their own shows.
That's tragic, right? Because people used to be brought together before the television a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they were like, okay, well, how about just 1 hour a day? Come on. before.
Yeah, that's that Make America Great shit again. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's like remember this. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what used to bring the family
Don't you
together?
want to go?
Like, you know what
maybe
used to bring the
before
family
that.
together? Winter and lack of air conditioning. Those kinds of things used to bring the
Lack of
family
heat.
together. Yeah. I don't know.
There is a lot of, there are a lot of families that barely interact with each other.
Yeah, but not like in the Amish family, not in families before television.
Amish, yeah.
Not in families before television.
Right.
I think before television, they interacted like all day long. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
And in the plague times, they started to move out and to have larger spaces. But before that, it was like 30 people, families living in one room. So they interacted a lot. They saw each other do everything. It was probably horrible also. So
good and bad, right? You learn from each generation that you're living with, but at the same time,
yeah. I'm gonna pull up the Deep Share podcast and show people where they can get some stuff from you, Andy. Let me load that up. Oh, it takes forever to load. Wait, Deep Share podcast.
Don't go to
Linktree works.
Yeah, there I am.
So if you go to Linktree, and you can also go to the Twitter and the YouTube, but the YouTube, I want you to go. There it is. Make sure you're subscribed to his YouTube. He's building up his subscribers. He's got some pretty awesome new videos and new interviews with people. Some great conversations here. I've been.
The most recent conversation was about false memory, so it's funny that we talked about that tonight.
What do you know about that? Crazy.
Yeah. And of course, I have David coming on Friday. David Charles Plate talking about synchronicity again. Awesome chat. Really great time.
Down here somewhere is the David chat that you did before. If you look there, you can find
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
But then also Act Like 26. Make sure you check out Raphael's channel. He's got, as he said, a new conversation with David Ewing Jr., which I'm going to listen to later. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. And a bunch of other conversations.
What I would like to recommend is a natural world order conversation. And like I said, I'm going to bring these guys onto Europa as well, because it's really interesting talking about David's stuff from a third person perspective, right? So other people referring to it and trying to understand it with their own knowledge and their own stories.
Epic.
So it was pretty cool. So I'm very happy they reached out.
I will definitely listen to this as well. This is great. Okay, cool. So we'll check that out, and we'll get caught up on doing Europa very soon. Also, make sure you check out Ping Trip.
And Andy, we're matching on subscribers. Good job.
What's that, man? Oh,
we're matching on subscribers, I think.
Cool, man.
Make sure you check out Ping Trip. He's got a pretty amazing interview with Alex Jones. Look at him there with that amazing hat. It's a great hat. He also just did the Lex Friedman Hits on OnlyFans model video, which is probably one of my favorite, actually. I think this is,
Yeah, you and Lex Friedman have a lot in common.
Application of like people to have casual sex with you, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's get back to that. But Ping Trip, basically, best channel if you like to watch news, but you don't want to watch it like too newsy, and you just want to know what's really going on, but you also like how people lie in the news.
I don't know.
You can watch fake news.
The best explanation of my channel, dude.
No, it isn't. But mainstreaming, but punk rock. No, what do you think? He's talking about stuff that's going on.
I make shit. You might like it, you might not.
Oh yeah, see, girl. That's exactly right. So do that, and then also you can go to make sure you subscribe to Andy on Twitter. Whoa. Check out Kurt's music, American Time Machine, the best music, my favorite anyway. You can find his albums there on Spotify. Remember when Joe Biden defecated himself and birds? These are just really good stuff. Is this the new Animas on the new album, or no? Kaleidoscope's older. This is Manufacturing the Tribal Society, which I haven't heard yet. This is the newest album. This man makes more music than he just makes more music than anybody. Cave, Stone Ritual, Shell Bell, Dimensions, Bees, Happy, D-State, Fuse, Too Long. Yeah.
Thank you.
They should have just played some of his music, man. Jesus
That's
Christ,
true.
man.
How about that, right? What am I doing here?
Yeah, well.
Copyright claim. He gets all the money from the video now.
He does that. That's all part of his plan. There's a lot of like Tinkerbell stuff going on here, like Disney. You should listen to this stuff while you're at Disneyland.
It's
pretty great. I like it.
Yeah, well, I always new like experiments and approaches, I guess, but mostly electronic these days. But
he uses guitar too, electric guitar and electronic. It's pretty.
Well, not a little bit anymore, but now like. I don't know. Like with each track, I'll try to do something gimmicky, and I don't mean to use like gimmicky, but I mean, for example, on one of the tracks. I'm trying to think of exactly. Okay, so like I was trying, for example, I was trying to really mess with the idea of how you, in pure audio form, how your brain interprets space between the music. And I don't mean like you can interpret space as just time or tempo. That's one form of space. But if you take every aspect, we'll say, you know, the rhythm section, the bass section, your keys, and whatever. I'm terrible. But you can think of all those different things as space. So you can slow the tempo and also take another section of the music where you also start pulling away pieces. And then in the middle, you just have kind of an open space. And then you start reintroducing those aspects. So that was kind of the whole, more of the whole idea behind like the Kaleidoscope album. And that's why, part of the reason why like I can put out stuff very quickly is because sometimes the idea is simple and then I'll just do a lot of iterations of that idea. And so it's very easy to transition from one idea to another. So it's not like, it's, I think for me, it's like I try to create stuff I would listen to, and I do go back and listen to these and try to like think about what the value extracted there was.
I like them. I listened to them driving across South Dakota recently. It was pretty good. Make sure you listen to American Time Machine. It's worth your time. And also, if you make the trip to VBDC's Linktree, you can find that Stay Cool drops on 8/4. So scroll down to pre-order. Apple Music, Amazon Music, iTunes, Amazon, anywhere you get your music, you can start to listen to Stay Cool, the new song from Venice Beach Dub Club.
Yes, I have a call to action. The pre-orders on iTunes and the pre-saves on Spotify are the only way for an independent artist to get picked up on editorial playlists on iTunes or Spotify or something like that. If you think about how it works, all the pre-orders, the sales go through the minute the song actually releases. So then for that 1 hour or whatever, you might be the #1 album in the nation and you can have that bragging rate. And then also with the pre-saves on Spotify, the way Spotify chooses what to promote is the first day streams and the first week streams. So all those pre-saves will kick in on that first day and I'll blip on the radar. So if people could please go help me out, there's going to be an awesome high budget music video also dropping on August 4th. I don't know if you have it, but I sent you a teaser trailer for that on a little trailer for that on Twitter. But if not, that's cool. But the video will be out on my YouTube channel on the same day. So yeah, just please help me out. You know, I'm trying so hard to make good stuff, and it's really, really difficult and disheartening to be an independent artist nowadays.
Just sell your soul, dude. That's all you gotta do.
Where's that link to your?
I summon Satan. Satan, I summon you. I wish to sell my soul. I've tried this dude online 1,000,000 times. He never comes. I don't know how. Satan, I offer my soul in exchange for musical success. Come to me.
You're too willing. That might be the problem.
Freaking Aries, right? Yeah, I can't find the link for your for the teaser. So maybe you want to send it to me and we'll do it next time because we're about to go. But definitely, everybody, make sure you check out Stay Cool. Get yourself the pre-order because it's going to be awesome.
The music's good, so definitely check it out.
Thank you, brother.
I'm a fan. Love you all. I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Peace.
Fuck AI.